Hello and welcome back to another episode of Tobacco Road and Abroad. My name's Gareth Parsons, joined by Aiden Moore. Aiden, lots to unpack this week. First of all, how's it going? Any initial thoughts for this week for the NFL? Anything else?
NFL, there's a couple thoughts, but I just want to get the elephant out of the room right now. Not a good week. One of the worst
No.
weeks of my life. But hey, I just want to say good game to State.
Good game, man.
Let's address this talking point right here at the beginning of the
Okay.
podcast. Planting the flag in the middle of the field. Baker Mayfield did not create it. Stop citing him as the creator. In my opinion, it's like storming the field. There's sometimes where I get it, and then there's sometimes where I'm like, that's corny. Michigan doing it to Ohio State. They're the underdog. Didn't have a really good year. That's their equivalent of storming the field. That's good. NC State doing it to UNC. I'll admit, warranted. And am I upset that UNC decided to fight State? No. I don't like this talking point like, oh, hey, if you didn't want it to happen, you should have played better. Well, I mean, obviously they wanted to play better. They just didn't. And they have so much self-respect that they just don't want it to happen. But I'm not faulting State. I'm not faulting UNC. But I think it's warranted for State to try to plant the flag. And it's fun. It's a rivalry. It's whatever.
Yeah.
The one that I had a problem with, Arizona State doing it to Arizona. Arizona's ass this year.
You're not good.
It's like beating up a disabled kid. Yeah, I know he's your rival, but what the hell did they do to you?
Both State and Carolina suck, but there's at least something on the line.
Yeah, there was something on the line. And you know what? I was a little bit, hell yeah, throw that flag off the field. Yeah, it's a little bit childish, but you know what? Hey, I hate State and State hates UNC. You know what? Hey, yeah, that's good for next year. That's good. That's a fun image. And you know what? For State, it's a fun image to see that NC State flag planted in the middle of UNC. That's a good photo. That's I love that shit. That's good for the rivalry. As long as everybody's safe, there's a little bit of a scuffle. As long as nobody's seriously hurt, I don't care. I don't like, what was that call at Ohio State? The Ohio State game, oh my gosh, Michigan has no class. I'm like, shut the hell up. What is this? Fox, Fox Sports is just Ohio State's propaganda network. I'm sorry. You can maybe get in a little bit of a skirmish, but that was an all-out brawl.
Some pushing and shoving's fine.
The Ohio, what was it? The Ohio police, they were. I think I heard something they were pepper spraying Michigan players. I'm like, what the?
They
fuck?
did, yeah. There's pictures.
That's too far, man. Okay, yeah, calm it down. But why the hell are you pepper spraying them? I mean, that's stop this BS. Oh, it's no class. It's a rivalry game. Come on. As long as everyone's safe at the end, I think it's good. It's good for the sport, and it's fun. But I will say this: if you don't have a turf field, you're screwed for this, because at least with the turf field, it's hard to plant the flag. It's up there for 1 second, and then it falls down and it kind of looks a little bit stupid, but you get one good picture in. But if you have a regular grass field, you're just asking for it. So this might just be a great advertisement for I think NC State was actually doing advertisement for turf, because I hear they're really well known for artificial grass, and their engineering department's really great. So this is great for State's business right now. That's all I'm going to say. But everybody,
ironically enough, we have a natural field.
Fuck yes, next year. Bill Belichick coaching UNC to plant the flag in the middle of the real field. But
so I think y'all have turf, right?
Yeah, we have turf.
So planting the flag's kind of a dumb
it's all
anyway.
just a PVC pipe, and it just stays up for a second and then falls down.
I remember State did it a few years ago. Ben Finley had to hold it up because he didn't realize it wouldn't go into the ground.
Yeah, but
Football players for you. Football players for you.
stop saying that it's like classless. Like
It,
in my opinion, it's the away team's equivalent to rushing the field.
yeah, I'm not against it.
I'm
And
not
like
again.
all these people saying it's unsafe, it's people in pads and helmets throwing punches. Like
I will
you're
say that,
stupid to
like, what
throw a
was
right
that
hook.
Notre Dame defensive lineman that punched down USC? USC like offensive lineman in the face. He had his helmet on. I don't even know what the hell. Like that was like it was a review on like I think a touchdown, and then just on one angle you just saw one like defensive lineman just punching the shit out of the downed offensive. That's not a good look. I'm sorry, that's not a good look. But like that's also stupid. Notre Dame's supposed to be a smart school. Like what the like you're just going bare fist like fist punching a face mask. That's just ugh.
That's gonna hurt you more than it's gonna hurt him.
Yeah. Anyway, rant over. First, let's talk about the NFL. Then we'll get to college. But I felt like it was very important. Like this has been the week everyone's talking about flag planting. Do we like it? Do we not like it? I like it when like the team is the losing teams like has a little bit of animosity. Like that like that's a little bit of fun as long as it's not too violent. Like I get it. Like you're a little bit pissed off. Like yeah, you want to throw that flag out and but like also it's fun to like see the winning team like plant their flag. But that's just my perspective as the losing fan, the fan of the losing team. So I don't know, but I can't wait for next year. I hope we get the opportunity to plant the flag in the middle of Carter Finley. That'll be great. But just that rant over. Anyway, NFL. Panthers, man.
Pain.
Mm.
So
Oh.
if y'all don't know what we're referencing, the Panthers took the Bucks, scored to take the lead against the Bucks. The Bucks kicked a field goal with like 32nd week in a row of teams driven down like the last 30 seconds of the game to kick a field goal. This time, Bucks didn't send it to overtime. Panthers get the stop in overtime, so all the Panthers have to do is win. The Panthers got into field goal range and fumbled the ball.
Mm.
Tampa Bay then drove down the field and nailed the field goal. I feel completely bad for Chuba Hubbard. That was an absolutely gutting play. I don't really blame him because he's kind of been Bryce has been slinging the rock, but he's kind of been our main source of offense this year. Like when we run the ball well with Hubbard, we do well. Like when Hubbard hits like that 100-yard mark, that's when we do well. So you can't really blame him. It's like Bryce throwing a pick there. Like, yeah, it's frustrating, but like you can't really pin the loss on him. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean Bryce Young had a pretty good game, like almost throwing for 300 yards, passing. Like I can see that he's really confident, and I like he has a job security now. Like let's be transparent. Like he's going to be the starter for the future now. Like let's stop the narratives. Like we kind of perpetuated these narratives. Like it was time for him to move on. He's staying here in Carolina. Everyone's buying into him. I like the turnout of the Panthers fans at the game. Like like that was like just seeing like I've been seeing like TikToks of like fan reactions at the game. Like we are having like a fan revival right now, and I hope to see this soon. Like this perpetuating, and I think the wins will start coming. Like it's obviously tough, a rough loss, but like what are you gonna do?
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't think this was possible, but the Panthers moved up 2 or 3 spots in the power rankings with that loss. And for those of you who don't understand the NFL power rankings, it's not just about your wins and losses. It's about how you play in those losses. And because the Panthers, and I feel like in the Panthers' most recent losses, like they've played just like a bad team, just not the dumpster fire people thought they were. We just look like your average team with losing record.
Yeah.
Hold on, let me look at the NFL power rankings real quick because I thought we were surprisingly high.
We're over the Bears right now.
Yeah, and the Bears were like the hot and trendy team going into the season. The Bears started out 4-0. Hold on, let me look. We are 26th, so we're the sixth worst. Which, considering what people thought going into this season, I'd say that's pretty good. We're over teams like the Bears, the Jets, the Patriots. We're over the Titans. God, I'd hope we'd be over the Titans. The Jaguars, the Raiders, the Giants. I mean, the Raiders and Giants are just absolute fucking dumpster fires. Oh, sorry. I'm trying to cuss less on here because I've been told that some of my swimmers have found the podcast, so I'm trying not to swear as much. But, if you find it, that's on you at this point.
Swimmers, Gareth Swimmers, get this podcast to 100 likes, and I will reveal some of Gareth's most deepest and darkest secrets live on the podcast.
We can't tell them about the felony.
Nah, but you actually went to the Patriots Colts game this past week.
I did. It was.
You know what? Let's switch it up. How was you did some you did some. Well, we could say that you did some in-person like scouting and monitoring. Like we got Tobacco Road and abroad into Gillette Stadium. So let's go. How was that? How was that?
It was good. I will say, for how bad the Patriots are, I will say the fan support still is there. It was nice to see that the lower bowl was filled. I mean, even though they're not my team, I feel like for teams with losing records, it's still nice to see the fans turn out. I know maybe not the upper bowl. It is, we are in Foxborough, Massachusetts. It's cold. The upper bowl is like really elevated, not much wind protection. So I can understand the upper bowl being about half full, but the lower bowl is completely full. I know I already said it, but it's like I like seeing fan support for teams with a losing record. And I think it's because the Patriots have been given something to believe in. It's just, I feel like after seeing the offense struggle with giving, not necessarily turning the entire playbook over to May or Jacoby, I think the offensive coordinator just said, it's time to let May just kind of go to work. And they've turned him loose. And I will say for the first time I've seen hope with like the Patriots fans, and I'm not talking about just my girlfriend or my friend Luke, who we may bring on here occasionally. I mean, like hearing Patriots fans talk, just the buzz in the stadium. Now, I will say we were seated near some clueless Patriots fans. They were getting angry that they were running the ball, and they're like, quit running the ball, you pansies. Meanwhile, Ramondre Stevenson's getting like 8.1 yards a carry. And I'm like, no, this is good. Like, and they kept going on, stop running the ball. I'm like, thinking, no, this is what you want. You're getting 8 yards. You're getting 8 yards a carry on the ground. Doesn't matter the run play, whether it's dive, zone, or power. I'm like, Stevenson's running people over.
I think Drake May should pass every single play, and I don't know, man. Something about Drake May, something about him I just trust. Greatest quarterback of all time.
Drake May did play well. He handles pressure well. Now, I do think there were certain times, particularly in the second half or early first half, early second half, where it's like he was still trying to get into the rhythm of the game. He kind of panicked a little, particularly. And it wasn't necessarily when pressure was coming. Like, I'm not talking like 5, 6, 7 man blitzes. I'm talking like coverage sacks. Like, they're sending only 3 or 4. Everyone's covered downfield. Now, once he kind of got into the rhythm of the halves, he did make, if there was a coverage sack, or if you notice that he had man coverage across the board with no spy, he'd take off. I think one of their longest rushes of the day, May got kind of flushed out of the pocket and took off for like 60-plus yards. They were deep in their own end. He got them down to like the 30. Now, I will say the downside about the Patriots, at least this past weekend, was their defense. It was the Colts kind of had their way, at least when it came to running the ball. Jonathan Taylor just absolutely bullied that defensive line, that secondary. Eventually, they got Anthony Richardson going in the run game. But one thing I will say, at least from the Colts aspect, that kind of impressed me was how much I think Anthony Richardson looks better as a passer. He's very similar to the Bryce Young situation, where after getting benched for Joe Flacco, he gets it now. Not to reuse the Bryce Young quote, but I think he gets it now. Ultimately, the Patriots did end up losing the game. The Colts had a game-winning drive in which they could have tied the game with an extra point, but they OC decided to put his nuts on the table on the 2-point conversion and essentially just ran quarterback power with Anthony Richardson. And, if you need 2 yards and you run quarterback power with Richardson, you're going to get those 2 yards. Like, he's a big dude. Colts have a massive offensive line. You have Jonathan Taylor helping open the hole. Like, that's 2 big dudes that's one big dude leading another big dude through a gap that's been opened by one of the better offensive lines in the NFL. So perfect play call there. But overall, I will say it was a fun experience. Gillette wasn't as cold as I thought it was going to be, but my girlfriend Sarah did say they've kind of, while the upper bowl is exposed, they've done things to cut down on the wind whipping through there. But I will say overall on the whole, I do think Patriots fans have stuff to be excited about. Drake May does look like he's taken to the NFL very well. I do think the Patriots have their scheme down. I just think they need to find the right pieces and just they need to build around Drake May. Particularly, he needs some better targets downfield. He needs more than just Hunter Henry at the tight end position. And I know Cam Newton said it on the 4th and 1 podcast. Other former NFL quarterbacks have said this. Offensive coordinators say this, that, a young quarterback's best friend is the tight end. After a good O-line, a young quarterback's best friend is a tight end when it comes to the passing game. And I will say that's very true for Drake May. Both the Patriots tight ends, I think, have been very helpful to him. They're just, particularly Hunter Henry. I'm blanking on the name of the secondary tight end for the Patriots, but they both, even when Jacoby was the quarterback, that was kind of like the mainstay of the Patriots passing game it was either get the ball to Hunter Henry or take off. But like I said, I do think the Patriots fans have a lot to look forward to. But other than that, fun experience, fun game. I did enjoy the throwback jerseys, not just because they were red. Yes, I do think the Patriots do look good with that alternate Patriot Pat logo, the red. But it also brings back their throwback blue jerseys. I know there's some kind of forgotten blue jerseys. A lot of people think the Patriots just went from their red to their current navy and silver. They actually, for a few years, went to almost like a Duke blue, where they had kind of, they did have silver helmets, but they had, the kind of that almost like cartoonish looking version of their logo, kind of a lighter blue. And I will say it was nice to see. I'm a sucker for these throwback uniforms. I do think the Patriots have some of the best throwback uniforms in the NFL, but that's all I'll say. But you can't tell I'm a uniform and helmet nerd, so that was having a field day. Elsewhere around the NFL this past week, we had some decent games. I'll lead with the kind of elephant in the room. I don't know how much longer I can keep defending the Bengals. They are better than their record. They don't have a defense. Joe Burrow puts up video game stats week in and week out. The entire offense puts up video game stats week in and week out, and the defense just gets torched. I mean, Russ picked apart that defense. I can't name the last time when Russell Wilson threw for 400 yards.
Mr. Unlimited.
That's not a knock to him, but how often in the NFL do you see a quarterback throw for 400 yards? Like, you don't see Pat Mahomes do that a lot. Like, Brady didn't throw for 400 yards that often. Like, I think that just tells you how bad that Bengals defense is. I mean, I don't know if you have any thoughts on it. I do think the Bengals are a decent team. They've got a decent defensive line, but that's about it. Their secondary is not great. But their defensive line is kind of their redeeming quality for that defense.
I mean, man, I hate to do this to the Bengals. I mean, like, yeah, I like their offense. I got love for the city of Cincinnati. Like, honestly, like, they're a little bit weird with their chili, but like, other than that, it's like they deserve better than this, man. I mean, like, somebody is going to be paying time in purgatory or hell for the misdeed of misusing Joe Burrow. That's all I gotta say right now, because you have a generational quarterback right now that is playing at one of the highest level. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and act like Joe Burrow like was perfect. He did throw one pick on the game, but like it's like I like I like at this rate, I'm not trusting the Bengals for anything right now. Like, looking at the rest of their schedule right now, like if they like at the beginning of the year they lost to the Patriots. How are we going to like that should have been our red flag from the beginning of it. They're going to be playing at the Cowboys. I believe that's Monday Night Football. The Titans. Okay, we got 2 wins right there of Browns. Okay. Broncos, Steelers. You know what? They might get one, two, three. They might get 3 more wins on this one. I don't even know if I can trust them for the Broncos and the Steelers, like the Steelers to end the season. But I think they could get a win against the Cowboys, the Titans. I hope if they fumble against the Titans, we're fire everybody. Let Joe Burrow go at that point. If you lose to the Titans, it's over. It's over. Your franchise is over. Move to London at that point. I don't know. You don't deserve a football team at that point anymore. But Browns, I love the Browns, but on paper, the Bengals should beat the Browns. And that's all I gotta say. But like I'm like this is once again this is the case this is a case of a Bengals loss more than a Steelers win. But all I gotta say is that the Steelers did win big today, so that's gotta show you how much the Bengals lost. But
Definitely.
looking around the league, I just somebody's got to take Aaron Rodgers and just like not let him look off at like a sunset on ayahuasca. Just like give him a podcast mic and just send him out to pasture, because like it's over, buddy. No, pick up the podcast mic. This ain't for you anymore. Like, I'm sorry. Like, who? I don't think I'm going to be saying this as like, yeah, they blew basically the first quarter they started off really good against the Seahawks, but the Seahawks rallied, and it was just all downhill from there. Like, they they blew a 21-7 lead, and ended up losing 26-21. Like, that second half of the game was just almost inexcusable. Like, after like midway through the second quarter, like, I don't know what the hell happened. It's like maybe the locker room is just not there for New York, but I just it's over for Rodgers. Like, I don't see him. I don't like after this year. I don't see him like being a substantial like quarterback in this league. He's playing all right, like 2 touchdowns on the game, like that's good, but like he's just not performing in the clutch anymore. And like I'm done with I'm the the Jets should be ready to move on from this point, because this experiment is just not working. Like, you can get all the old best of Aaron Rodgers receivers that you want right now. That's not going to fix this. And we should have known this going into this season. I don't know why I was so high on the Jets before, but like it's just not looking good. But we already covered the uh, Thanksgiving games last week, right?
Yeah, I believe we did. Yes, we did.
Yeah, I mean, like, I guess what other games like really stuck? Oh, Eagles, Ravens. That was pretty, like, at least decent game. Like, uh, Eagles. just kind of continuing to roll. Like they're hot, and really, like I don't. It's going to be hard to stop them. Like we're playing, like Panthers playing them this week, right?
Yeah, we're playing. The Panthers play them this week. I forget
Yeah.
whether it's the 1 or the 4:15 game, but I can check on that.
But absolute, like it was good. Saquon Barkley had a really solid game with 23 carries, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. That was a pretty decent showing for him. Lamar Jackson able to, like, for the Ravens, he helped keep it close for them, throwing for 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jackson just proven, like, once again, as I was saying before, very slept on passer, and he's going to make you pay if you're not respecting the pass with him. But overall, good win for the Eagles. Just a little bit I'm disappointed in the Ravens. I really thought they were going to find the way to win in this one, but the Eagles were just a little bit too much.
Yeah, and this was a Baltimore team that for a while we thought were Super Bowl contenders, and I still think they could be. I just think the AFC, and this is crazy that we're saying this. Like, if you told us 5 years ago that the AFC would be this much stronger than the NFC, no, I do think the NFC has got talent. I just think the NFC is incredibly top heavy, while I think the depth is in the AFC. Like the NFC is kind of a 4-horse race, and if that, it's really only a 3-horse race. It's got good teams. I just think it's kind of a 3-horse race, and I think 3 of those horses may be in the NFC North.
Yeah,
I do think the Eagles will have something to say about that, but 3 of the top 4 teams in the NFC are in the North. So, but like you said, it's just it's unfortunate that game had to come at this time of the year when making the play. Like the Ravens may miss the playoffs, and that's an odd thing to say because they have, I think they have a Super Bowl one. If you look at that, I don't want to say they have a Super Bowl winning roster, but they have a roster capable of getting them to the Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
Or at least a deep run in the playoffs. But I just think it's the timing of this game against the Eagles is just kind of unfortunate. Elsewhere, we had our second snow game of the year. We had Bills 49ers. This was just kind of utter domination by the Bills. I just think San Francisco's not used to playing in that type of weather. It was just they couldn't hold on to the ball. Purdy couldn't really complete a pass. It was just kind of ugly. I mean, the Bills just kind of had their way. They ran the ball really well. You'd think with like the short and quick passing and the wide zone offense that the 49ers have, it would have been advantageous because one thing I noticed and the commentators pointed out in the game was the snow made it really hard to get going and change directions. And you thought this would have made this like an offensive games, like, offensive teams like, wet dream with, how much like, tosses and sweeps the 49ers run, which were, you get the back in motion before they even get the ball. So you think that would favor the 49ers, but I think the Bills are just so used to playing in weather like this that it was, Josh Allen himself, I know this is going to sound weird. He's not the first player to have a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown, but he is the first quarterback in almost a century to have a passing touchdown, a receiving touchdown, and a rushing touchdown in the same game. Now, would I have counted what he got as a rushing touchdown as a receiving touchdown as one? No. I think the one from the playoff game against the Chiefs that Marcus Mariota had was this. But if you don't know what happened, I'll explain. Josh Allen threw a pass kind of outside of the body line of I forget what receiver he threw it to. It was, let me check. That's the 49er stats. He threw it to Amari Cooper. He threw the ball a little bit outside his body line. Amari Cooper was kind of stopped short of the goal line. And Josh Allen just takes off towards Amari Cooper as the defense is wrapping up. And Amari Cooper just flips it to Josh Allen, and Josh Allen dove into the end zone. In the NFL, apparently that counts as a receiving touchdown if you receive the lateral from the receiver. So, but the weird thing is Josh Allen doesn't get the yards for it. he just gets credited for a receiving touchdown. The yards go to Amari Cooper. And I feel like that does make sense.
Yeah.
I will say that part does make sense because he didn't make the catch. But ultimately, it was a fun game. It was such a beatdown that another UNC quarterback got to see playing time this weekend.
Mitchell
Mitch
kissing
Trubisky.
tissies.
Mitchell Trubisky got to come in for a few plays. One completion for 4 yards, but they mainly used him to run the ball, which is not something I thought was a strong suit, but he came in and ran the ball a few times. Elsewhere, Texans kind of struggle with the Jaguars, but I know this is going to sound weird for a team with that much caliber of firepower. The Texans kind of played down to their opponents, so this doesn't necessarily surprise me.
And then they also hit a downed quarterback.
They did. And honestly, I haven't said it on here, but this is one thing I've talked to Aiden about, I think, or at least mentioned. Yeah. There's no real benefit to sliding. Like, you might as well just dive or roll. Like, at least with rolling or diving, you know where you're going down.
Mm-hmm.
When you slide, you don't know where they're going to mark you as where you started the slide, because that could be subjective to some people based on your body language, like where you're going to start the slide. So,
I mean, I don't know how I feel about the narratives that are like surrounding that hit. I think this is just this like just what's going to happen. Like, this is what happens when we have so many quarterbacks that rush. Some of them who, in my opinion, have no business rushing, not because they're slow, just because I don't think they can take a hit. And it's not worth it. Like, yes, I know defense always like presses, like sometimes goes all the way back for the pass, and there's going to be like open lanes to run. That's how like Patrick Mahomes gets a lot of his yards. Just be like, it's not like that these quarterbacks are fast. It's just because like there's a hole in the defense and the quarterback is like athletic enough to make the play. But just with this, I just, part of me just doesn't like it as much. I think we need to be like, if we don't want these things to happen, like, yes, you can implement the rules, you can do whatever you want, but like some of these players, they're just going to be like heading in, like just going in to try to hit the quarterback as like proficient as they can, and they're not looking for the slide. And I don't think that's necessarily like their fault, because they're playing the game and they're trying to stop these runs. Obviously, player safety should be the number one concern, but I'm having a hard time like pointing the blame at either the defense or the offense in this scenario. I think we just need to find ways to like prioritize the safety of your quarterback a little bit more. Like maybe in like the designed runs, or how you teach your quarterback to run outside the pocket. I think there needs to be serious conversation surrounding that. But
yeah, it's just, and even if the defender doesn't mean to hit the quarterback, you might have hinted at this, like it's kind of hard to stop your momentum. And this might apply more to college, but with the targeting rules, especially in college, like you're telling defenders, don't aim for the head, don't aim for the head or neck. So they're going low.
Yeah.
If the quarterback starts to slide, where is their head now if they're going low? Right where the sliding quarterback's head is. So not only are you putting the quarterback at further risk, but you are also penalizing a defender for trying to not break a rule that you've already set in place. Like, I don't think these rules conflict, but do you get what I mean when I say these rules kind of conflict?
Yeah,
if a quarterback gives himself up, I think they need to add a caveat. Like, obviously, if they take a cheap shot at the quarterback while he's sliding, I think there can be some discretion where you can kind of tell whether it was intentional. Like, say the defensive player has already started the process of you know what it could be? And I realize could be also just as convoluted and confusing. The process of the tackle. Has the defender started the process of the tackle? Because, yes, okay, if the quarterback's already started sliding and the defender then tackles him and leads with his head, okay, that was probably aimed. But if he's going low, aiming at his chest, and the quarterback starts to slide and gets popped, I think you don't penalize that. Like, it is clear, like, the defender had already committed at that point. Like, yeah, ultimately it is unfortunate, and yes, within the letter of the law, that would be targeting, or at least in the NFL, an unnecessary roughness with using the crown of the helmet. But, like, I feel like sliding just creates more problems than what it's worth. Dive, like, you might as well at this point, with how many injuries are coming from still sliding, you might as well just dive like Tua does. You might as well.
Might as well.
And I know that's a dangerous phrase when it comes to arguing scientific
Doing anything
safety.
like Tua is dangerous.
And I know
that's like taking marital advice from O.J. Simpson. Like, it's just there's some things that you just can't like.
Yeah.
Like that's just bad advice. But like, I don't know if this is a situation that we're putting quarterbacks in, you might as well just go all the way.
You might as well not even give yourself up. Yeah.
Yeah. But one last game I want to bring up. The greatest game of a quarterback and the worst game of a quarterback all happened within the confines of one man, and that man is Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston had basically one of the best nights and also one of the worst nights you can have as a quarterback. One thing I like about Jameis Winston is, like, listen, he's going to be slinging the ball. He's going to be letting it fly. And he's going to be scoring, whether it's for your team or for the other team. That is up for debate. But this Jameis Winston in a loss, the Browns lost to the Broncos 41-32. That's aside from the point. Jameis Winston almost passed. He was at 497 passing yards. That is almost 500 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. 3 interceptions, 2 of which were pick sixes. One of those picks was almost a pick six. I don't know what to think of this. Gareth, do you want to help me here? Like, I know you had some great input on what your opinions of Jameis Winston, but I'll say this: it's better than Watson. It's better than Watson. And honestly, if you're the Browns, I don't know what you can ask for right now. So, like, Jameis Winston's one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. Even though he's not a part of my team, and maybe the fact that he's not a part of a team that I like is why I like him so much. But he's just we need to have a mandate where he has a job in the NFL at all times. Like, I can't live with him not being in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if they said this, I think, on ESPN the other day. I don't know if this is not my quote in any way. I don't want him to be the quarterback of my team. I just want him to be the quarterback of some team. And I think I'll agree with that statement. Like, yes, if we were back in the dumps of, like, early in the season when the Panthers couldn't move the ball, I would have taken Jameis Winston happily.
Yes.
But I think now that we've kind of got the offense under wraps, I don't think I would. But
send him to Vegas. Have Vegas draft Shadur Sanders. Jameis Winston's the starter, and until everyone gets tired of him, then put Shadur Sanders in there. That's my plan for him next year if the Browns don't want to resign, keep Jameis Winston. Because I want to see him. I want to see him on a team, and ideally, I want to see him in the limelight every week. I want to see every week he's coming up with some clip, and I need to see him in a clip. He'd be talking about God and stuff, and it just gets me going.
His clips are either, I want to give glory to God, or we ride at dawn, bitches. That's literally that's
the horse is ready for battle.
Yeah, that's what it was. The horse
and I'm ready for Lord, and I give glory to God.
It's either give glory to God or we ride at dawn. That's him. But what I will say is there's been a lot of talk about the Jameis Winston experience and how, throwing for 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, and 2 pick sixes is the most Jameis Winston thing he could have done. And that's just the Jameis experience. Now, I do agree that is very Jameis Winston of him, but I don't think he's the first to do it. Dare I say it? I think that's the mid-2010s Big 12 quarterback. Like that is like that is your Trevor Knights. That is your
Elite pole.
dare I say it? That is your Patrick Mahomes. Because yes, Patrick Mahomes was not like, this.
He wasn't a god at college.
He was good, but he wasn't as cautious as he was. He was a straight certified gunslinger. Like I'm talking 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. Like that was your Patrick Mahomes college experience. Where else? Baker Mayfield. That was your Baker Mayfield experience back then. 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, just absolutely slinging the rock 60 times a game.
Can we get Throw God's opinion on Jameis Winston?
I really don't want to talk about Harrison Beck. That was a dark time for NC State when he was their quarterback, and for the 3 games before he lost out to Russell Wilson. I try to stay off Harrison Beck's socials because he either says something that pisses me off or he says something racist.
Yeah.
So I try not to look at Throw.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. His like once he gets talking about politics, I'm out. Well, can we get him in for the podcast for 1 episode?
I think my parents would disown me if I brought up Harrison Beck.
We can denounce him. Like I denounce him, and I denounce any like crappy policies or like horrible things that he may say, as long as he doesn't say anything racist or like just horribly misogynistic on our podcast. And if he does, let's just make it clear that we disagree with him. But I want to see his opinion on Jameis Winston at least.
Oh, hit him with like the edit filter, like the we have on my little soundboard here. Do I hit him with like the what's it called, the sensor like that? Do I just hit him with that?
Yes.
Sorry, we'll be back later. Harrison, you can't say that.
We'll be right back.
We'll be right back. But no, like I said, it is the quintessential Big 12 mid-2010s college experience. When Aiden and I are staying up late watching those. I think one game that I particularly have in mind, I think it was Baylor and someone else.
Oklahoma.
It was the game Sterling Shepard got his absolute shit rocked. It was that game where I'm like, this is quintessential Big 12. You and I were falling asleep on the couch watching this, I think, with either your Uncle Jesse or one of your – it was either Jesse.
It was Uncle Jeff.
It was with Uncle Jeff. And I remember I was in and out of a daze, and I just see Sterling Shepard get rocked. But I think those quarterbacks had I forget the final stat line. I might be mixing games up, but I feel like the Jameis Winston experience is the quintessential early 2010s Big 12 quarterback experience. Like, not necessarily Johnny Manziel Big 12, but I'm talking like even certain SEC teams that had just formally come over from the Big 12. Like, that's the Ryan Mallett experience too, just to throw another old name out there. But, it's fun, and I think the gunslinger is a type of quarterback that I think is not in fashion anymore, and it's nice seeing flashes of it. Joe Flacco last year for the Browns, even the 3 games the Red Rifle was in for the Panthers. Just picking apart the defense, throwing into the teeth of the defense, reckless abandon, fitting the ball in between 3 defenders. You gotta love it.
Yeah. But anyway, you want to move it to the week 14?
All right, yeah, let's move into week 14 of the NFL. We got some big ones. Obviously, we hinted at earlier, the Panthers have a meeting with the Eagles. I believe, but I'm just saying the stats are not there. I believe, so I'm going against my better judgment in believing, but let me get your initial thoughts before I get too down in the dumps here about this game. Like, I do think, anyone on any given Sunday can win. I mean, hell, the dumpster fire that is the Raiders almost beat the Chiefs, but I think the Chiefs are more lucky than good. But we can get into that later. But
I got the Panthers to cover. I got the Panthers to cover the spread. Right now, it's minus 13.5 for the Eagles. Like, I think that's a little bit too much. in my opinion, for the Eagles. Like, I think it's going to be close, but I'm not going to try to fool myself or anything like that. I got the Eagles winning this one, but I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I think the Panthers will definitely keep it close, and if it's close, hey, maybe overtime opportunity. We've learned from our mistakes. Always, if you keep it within 10 points going into the fourth quarter, I think there's always a chance for the Panthers to rally.
Yeah, and with how Bryce Young's been playing, I feel like he really hasn't been bad ever since he came back.
Yeah.
So, and the one thing that gives me pause is the Panthers, in order to do well, it's kind of been the theme that the run game kind of has to be there. But the Eagles' defense is kind of scary. They're the best overall defense. They're third in passing, seventh in rushing, and you may be scratching your head going, how are they the best defense? And if you average it out, a lot of teams in the NFL are like their defense is good at one thing. They're either good at stopping the pass or the rush. It's just the Eagles, when you average it out, are the number one defense. They only allow 282 yards a game.
How are they good at pass defense if they have white corners?
I don't know. I think they've got a guy named Cooper DeJean that who, if those of you didn't missed it, laid out Derrick Henry. Scrawny white dude, just absolutely. He picked up and threw Derrick Henry, like stopped him short of the line again and threw him, and it looked effortless. He's going to be a name to watch, but back to the point. They only allow 282 yards a game. They're tied for third in touchdowns allowed, with only allowing 23 touchdowns. Just to put some of these stats in perspective, they allow 282 yards a game. The rest of the NFL allows over 300. Except for the Vikings. The Vikings allow 291. But outside of those two teams, the rest of the NFL averages allowing over 300 yards a game. The Eagles allow 18 yards less per game than the league average. That is insane. And one thing I am worried about is that Eagles rushing attack, with the Panthers allowing 170 yards on the ground a game. I do think it is going to be close, but I think what ultimately is going to do us in is I think Saquon's going to have a field day.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, will we key in on that? Yeah, but even and I know this Jonathan Taylor's different than Saquon, but even when teams key in on a running back like that, people like Jonathan Taylor and Saquon are just so good that they when you're that elite of a running back, you just find a way to get it done. Yeah. And when the Eagles have that good of an offensive line, they're going to find a way to get it done. Similar to you, I'm not going to kid myself. I think we'll put up a fight, but I just don't think it's going to. But like you said, if it's 1-2 score game going into the fourth quarter, 10 points, 9 points, anything can happen. We've seen weirder things happen.
I just think the spread at 13.5 is a little bit too much.
I think it's not. I don't want to say put it in the disrespectful realm, but I think that's a little bit of a reach. I think that's a little bit of a glaze there, giving them 13.5.
Yeah. I got Panthers cover. I got Panthers cover the spread. Eagles win.
Yeah, unfortunately. Another big game that I think the first leg of this game was played earlier in the season, which I think this team was really unfortunate not to get them the first time around. But this team's offense has evolved as the season's gone on. And I'm talking about none other than the Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs won the first game 17-10, but that was kind of back when the Chargers were, that one-dimensional team. It was the fourth game of the season, but, the Chargers have developed, they've kind of ironed out the kinks in their passing game. And Chiefs are favored by 4, but I think after last week and how the Chiefs have played in the last couple of games, and no disrespect to the Panthers, the Panthers kept it close, but the Raiders keeping it close with the Raiders, with Alex O'Connell at quarterback, the Raiders. And I'm not saying he's a bad athlete, but they're one of the worst offenses in the NFL. Dare I say worse than the first 3 games Panthers. Like that is they're awful. Like
The Raiders.
now I will say for this upcoming game, J.K. Dobbins currently still listed as injured. That could change. And Ladd McConkey's questionable. However, the Chiefs are the least convincing 11-1 team. Now, I'm not saying a team cannot be dominant and not win close games.
I don't
There
know.
are some
Pittsburgh
teams,
from like 2019 was like what? Hang on, wait, was it 2019 or 2020? Or was it 2021? I'm sorry.
it was where they lost the last 6 games of the season and then lost the Browns in back-to-back games, the end of the season and then the playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. They were the. I think it was Pittsburgh was either what was it? This was back when the season was what still 16 games, not 17.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Steelers were 10-0, then they lost 6 straight. With the Chiefs next games, I think they could lose 6 straight. They honestly have the capacity to lose 6 straight without it playing.
I mean,
they've got Chargers. And my pick for the upset, if the Chargers can't do it, if they get the Jameis Winston experience next week.
You see, here's my thing. I think the Chiefs are going to keep on winning. Honestly, I think they're gonna Disney BS their way to the playoffs at with 1 or 2 losses, and I think everything's just setting up for a Chiefs choke in the playoffs, in my opinion. I'm not doubting the Chiefs in the regular season, so I'm picking the Chiefs on this game. But I do think the Chiefs are on fraud alert. But if they keep on winning, I'm gonna keep on. I'm staying on the train right now. I know you got the Chargers on this one, but I think technically the Chargers should win, but I don't think they're going to. I got the Chiefs.
I mean, the game is an Arrowhead, so there is a little bit of an edge there. But I will say the Chiefs have not been as good in Arrowhead as they should be. And I know people there's been the thing Joe Burrow was very good at winning an Arrowhead. I know he didn't win there this season, but for as loud as they get, I don't think it's as good of a home field advantage as people think it is.
Oh no!
This isn't no Lumen Field in Seattle. This isn't no Ford Field in Detroit.
I don't know. Sunday Night Football. I think it's going to be
going.
I think it's going to be rocking. It's going to be rocking. Might be a little bit cold. Says 50 expected weather at kickoff, 53 degrees. Not too cold. This is it's some cool fall football weather right now. I got the Chiefs on it. I like the Chargers. I like the Chargers to make the playoffs, but I think the Chiefs are just going to keep on rolling. Rolling is I wouldn't say rolling. Rolling implies dominance, but I think they're going to keep it going. They're just going to keep on going for a couple more games before things, I think, questions really start need to be answered.
Yeah. We got some other interesting games. The Monday night game, we've into Bengals Cowboys. This might be my shit bowl of the week, if I'm being honest. Actually, no, that's got to go to Titans Jaguars. Shout out to that game. 2-10 versus 3-9. That's our shit bowl. But Bengals Cowboys, I'd say battle of the underwhelming teams, battle of the not meeting expectations. But I will say, at least for the Cowboys, I don't think really many people outside of Cowboys fans expected them to be good this season.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of saw this season coming miles and miles away. I remember talking, at least I had somewhat of a conversation with Nathaniel Naguib about the Cowboys in the offseason. He's like, we're just not replacing the players we're letting go.
Yeah.
So he's like, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't have 53 players come the first week of the season. But,
shout out to Nathaniel for being the only rational Cowboys fan that I know. But it's an off year for Cowboys fans. With Alabama almost missing the playoffs, the New York Yankees losing the World Series, they really don't have a lot going on for them right now.
Duke men's basketball looking shaky.
Yeah, it's looking shaky in the Duke's men basketball. Even UNC basketball, like we might throw it in there, but we'll see how the Lakers do come April.
Or
But
maybe the Celtics now, but
oh, maybe. But rough year for Cowboys fans.
yeah, this may be a bold prediction here from me, with this being an AT&T, but I think with Cooper Rush at quarterback and just how bad the Dallas, no disrespect to Cooper Rush, he's had some decent games filling in for Dak Prescott, but I think the Bengals may win big here, and I think it may be ugly. I think the Bengals may have a game where their defense figures it out somewhat, and this may just be a frustration, just beat down.
If the
Like,
Bengals don't figure it out on defense on this game, I'm sorry, it's over.
yeah,
It's over in my opinion. Like, I'm sorry, you have the Cowboys dead to rights right now. You're the 4-8 team going into AT&T Stadium with a team that technically has a better season than you, but the Cowboys only have, I believe, one win at AT&T Stadium. That's as many wins as Jake Paul has in AT&T Stadium right now. Like, this year. So make no mistake. Like, I don't think the Cowboys have what it takes to take on the Bengals. And if the Bengals don't win bid, and if the Bengals have a lackluster performance on defense, I'm sorry, fire the DC, fire everyone on the Bengals defensive side, because you have a prime opportunity right now to try to, like, at least get some momentum going in to just what is, like, already, like, what is pretty much a lost season right now. But you got to find a way to really build some momentum in, unless you want to tank. Unless you want to tank right now. I mean, if this is Tank Bowl Monday Night Edition, like, okay, so be it. But I'm sorry, if the defense doesn't show up, I'm very disappointed.
I agree. And even in that, I think their offense should just be able to outpace this. At worst case scenario, I just think their offense should be able to outpace the Cowboys just with how bad that Cowboys offense is. Another game we'll highlight, I guess this I will say this is the only game that I feel like is going to be hotly contested. Outside of, I mean, I feel like Brown Steelers will be a good game. I think the Steelers
I want to see
ultimately come out
another.
on top.
I want to see another prime Jameis Winston game on this one. I want to see 5 touchdowns, 4 picks from Jameis Winston on this game. I want all offensive production from both sides of the ball to be from Jameis Winston. I want the greatest and worst defensive performance the Steelers have in one game. I want to see them be elite, and I also want to see them crumble with the amount of touchdowns that Jameis Winston throws, but making up for it automatically with the amount of pick sixes they have. The one thing I will say on this, the Steelers are 6-3. They have a winning record right now.
I think they're 9-3.
Yeah. Oh, my bad. The Steelers are 9-3. They have a winning season right now. Mike Tomlin is basically guaranteed his extension as always, just barely making it over for a winning season, as is Steelers tradition, because Steelers gonna Super Bowl. But with that, they can coast now for the rest of the season. So the Browns have a prime opportunity to make that comeback. The horse is ready for battle. And Jameis Winston is here to represent the Lord. Give me the Browns.
I think he'll have a good showing, but I think I'm going to take the Steelers here. They've shown that they can win it in any type of game. They can win shootouts. They can win kind of grinded out on the ground. Now, I'm not saying this won't be absolutely entertainment and peak cinema. I'm not saying this won't be that. But I just think the Steelers have shown they can kind of win in any kind of fashion. So it's a home game. I've got the Steelers. But I do know Mike Tomlin statistically has a winning season. So you never know. He has a thing for, having, getting over the hump of, guaranteeing a winning season and then losing the rest of the game. So You
or
never
just
know.
barely making it to a winning season until there's like the last 2 games of the season, and then he finally pulls it together to get them to like just 9 wins.
The last wild card spot.
Yes.
One final game I'll highlight for this week is hold on, let me get back to it. Is this is probably the most like I'd say evenly matched in terms of record. We got Seahawks Cardinals. Seahawks lead the division at 7-5. I really can't like I'm gonna label this is gonna sound corny, but I'm gonna label the NFC West kind of the Wild West. I kind of don't really know who's good in that division, who's not.
I'm done.
All the teams are. I mean, all the teams are within a game of each other. I mean, the Seahawks are 7-5. The Cardinals are 6-6. The Rams are 6-6, and the 49ers are 5-7. Seattle has a losing record at home, but leads the division. Seattle's 3-4 at home, 4-1 on the road. The Cardinals are 4-2 at home, 2-4 away. The Rams are a perfect 3-3 both ways. And the Niners are 3-3 at home and 2-4 on the road. This division is just chaos. Like I said, can't really tell who's good. Any thoughts on this game? I mean,
I don't know. I'm still very high on the Cardinals right now. I think the Seahawks have just been kind of getting a little bit lucky. Like, let's be real, the Jets weren't that good, and I like the Cardinals showing against their loss and against Minnesota. Like, I honestly have the Cardinals taking the. I think they're going to take the rest of the like. They lost against Seattle, but I don't know. I just like their win against Chicago and Miami. They had a pretty decent loss against Minnesota. It's just something in my gut. Like, I'm going Arizona on this one.
yeah, I am too. I just think Arizona's offense is a little more consistent. Seattle's offense has had explosive upside potential, but I just think it's just so up and down that it's just kind of inconsistent. So now I've loved the gunslinger attitude that Geno Smith's having. 3,200 yards, 13 touchdowns, 12 picks. You love to see it. It reminds
He's
you of the
not
NFL.
fun, Jameis Winston.
Now I will say he could do with some more touchdowns and interceptions.
Boring Jameis Winston.
Yes, boring Jameis Winston. So didn't he? It wasn't there also a joke about him getting LASIK as well, Gino?
Maybe.
I don't know. Maybe. But moving on, I think that's that. Anything else you want to add for the NFL? I mean,
Nah, I want to bring it to college now.
all right, moving on to college football. A lot to unpack from Rivalry Week. I mean, as Aiden and I hinted earlier to start the episode, a lot happened. A lot went down. Interesting matchups. Kind of, there are also some kind of snooze fests. But anything you would
we start? How about let's just start it. Break it down. Let's break down the state UNC game.
The most bipolar State Carolina game I've ever seen. At half, I went into it thinking, God, this is gonna be like one of those snooze fests from the early 2010s where one team wins, 13-10, 15-14, 17-10, 17-14, 17-16. But then both teams just kind of exploded in the second half. State and Carolina State scored 28 in the second half. Carolina scored 24. I mean, I thought State had a good showing. First half was the Dave Doran. First 3 quarters of the game was the Dave Doran Classic, trading field goals and field position. But then Carolina, late second quarter, kind of opened things up. Jacoby Criswell kind of sliced the defense open, finding Culver for 50. Then State and Carolina kind of traded field goals, touchdowns. I mean, ultimately State came out on top. I liked the play call in the end. We looked explosive in the fourth quarter, but that's about it. I mean, we should not have won this game. I mean, Carolina dominated every facet of the ball. Just outgained us in the air, on the ground, receiving yards. It was just not a great showing by our defense. But I mean, hats off to Hampton. That is a crazy performance. He, like I mentioned earlier, outgained Ohio State's entire team. I think he might have outgained NC State's entire team as well. But I mean, it was a good match. I liked it. It was a good game. I enjoyed it. I think Carolina played a good game. I think it was a good way for, even though I think Carolina lost me, it was a good offensive showing and just kind of overall showing for Carolina. I know they didn't end up winning, but I feel like it was an entertaining finish to the season that I think both teams deserved. Like, that was entertaining. Like, regardless of who won, I just didn't want it to be a snooze fest after the season both these teams have had. Like, that we needed a good kind of, rivalry game. We didn't need, a field goal trading fest that it was shaping up to be. But any kind of thoughts? I mean, I will weigh. I mean, I didn't really weigh in on like flag planting. I mean, I'm okay with it. Like, I feel like it's a rivalry. It's warranted. Like, unless one of State or Carolina was like 3-8, then I'm like, okay. Like, had Carolina been like 3-8 and we did that, I'd be like, all right, guys. Like, now, like, I get it's a rivalry. Like the Arizona game that we talked about. But that's all I'll say. You got anything to add?
That CJ Bailey pass on like what was it, 1st and 20, that that I don't know who caught it, but basically put NC State in field goal range. That killed me. That killed me right there. Like I knew when Hampton scored that touchdown pass on that shovel pass, like for what was it, 50 yards. That would like when I saw that and there was like 2 minutes left on the clock, I was like, oh no, we left too much time on the clock. Like I just knew it wasn't. I just knew it was like we left too much time on the clock and we ended up doing it. And that 1st and 20, I think that's just going to live in the psyche of the defense for a couple more. Like it's going to be one of those plays that you replay in your head in the off season. But like I don't know, not much you could do after that. I'm proud of how UNC played this game. Pretty much did the best that they could on offense. I wasn't necessarily so happy with some of the special teams performance. A couple missed field goals, a missed extra point. Not necessarily a good look right there. Almost had me texting Gareth saying, "Hey, teach me how to kick field goals. Let's see if I can walk on the season as a grad student or something like that." But nah, I don't like. Tough loss as a UNC fan, but I'm curious to see where these teams end up for the bowl games. NC State gets their bowl eligibility with this win, and I'm interested to see where each team's going to be going, who we're going to be playing. If I'm going to be honest, I'm not necessarily confident in either team's ability to bring home a bowl win, but we'll see who everybody gets matched up with and what players are invested and want to play for the bowl game or which ones are going to be sitting out. But yeah.
I will say the projected bowl games for I know you said you didn't think they could pick up bowl wins, but the teams State and Carolina are projected against, they're kind of projected against the same teams. I think we could get the teams they're projected against. Right now, the current projections have either of us against ECU and Oklahoma. And this is an Oklahoma without their top receiver and without Jackson Arnold.
What bowl games would be playing against ECU?
ECU, I think, let me pull it up. Because I think that's, believe it or not, that is a NC State and UNC do have a regional rivalry with ECU that hasn't been as prominent in recent years because ECU, after about 2007, ECU's kind of fallen off the face of the earth in terms of football. The one ECU projection, let me look. It is, where is it? I saw it earlier.
UNC plays ECU in a bowl game. That might be a fun little road trip.
Either the bowl games that people are slated to play ECU in are the military bowl, the Action Network Military Bowl.
That's in Annapolis, right?
That's in Annapolis, I believe. Actually, wait, no, that is in. Let me look. That's in Annapolis, Maryland, on December 28th.
Fun.
Another one that they're slated to play. Oh, this is different. This is an updated one. However, I do think based off the projections, NC State's going to end up with either Florida or Oklahoma, because in both the that's interesting. Aiden, with the teams I think State and Carolina are slated against in this article, do you really think State and Carolina can't beat UAB, Texas State, ECU?
I didn't know.
James Madison may be difficult for NC State. James Madison, that may be a bloodbath. Arkansas.
Don't get me started on JMU. Don't ask me.
Don't. I think we can hit both of our teams can handle Arkansas. Like, they are bad.
They beat Tennessee.
And who else? They went like 3-9.
They're bowling.
They're bowling, but like, I want to look at who Arkansas's beat, because I'm not gonna. I think Arkansas and Oklahoma are the best one. Now, the Florida matchup has me a little worried. The possibility of either team being drawn against Florida, that could be rough. Now, the other one that could be rough is Vanderbilt. That could be rough. Now, I will say, Vanderbilt, after the close loss to Texas, has not been the same. They did take Tennessee to the wire, but I think after the game against NC State, Tennessee didn't really blow anyone out. I think Tennessee just kind of ran into the thing. You know the saying, you see it a lot in college baseball, where the bats just kind of ran out, like they ran out of bats.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you drop, like, early in the season, you drop, like, you're a Power 4 team in college baseball. You drop, like, 30 on a team. And, yes, that does happen in college baseball. There regularly, when you play those preseason games against those mid-major teams, it's not unknown for teams to drop 30. And then the next game against, maybe a regional rival where you do win, but, the bats weren't there. I think that's kind of what's happened to Tennessee. I think I just think the bats have kind of gone cold for them recently. Yeah. Even if you look at like some of their wins, the bats have gone cold. So, anything else? Here, I'll look at UNC's bowl predictions real quick. But you got anything else to add while I do that?
Honestly, we can talk about bowl projections when we actually have bowl games.
That is true. When we have bowl predictions. The only thing I will say is Carolina may get a taste of Maction in one of their projected bowl games. They're either projected to face Rutgers, the Rutgers Scarlet Knights, and Rutgers, and what's the other one? I think that one's what was the other one? There was one where they said they're set to face a MAC team. Oh, you may be getting a rough one, Aiden.
What?
Army, if they don't make the playoff. I feel like that's kind of disrespectful to Army, If they don't make the playoff, like at 11, I think at 10-2, you have to put them in a better bowl game.
Yeah. But like with Army, all most of the New Year Six bowls are like gone.
Yeah. 2 of your bowl predictions are 2 separate meetings with Navy and Army.
I mean,
or UConn. I feel like UConn or Oklahoma, I think, is your best chance.
I'll take UConn. UConn any day.
Especially with how the service academies are looking. As a State fan, I wouldn't want to play a service academy right now.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're projected against Army in one of them. So, all right,
Mhm.
moving. We got to move. I know we are Tobacco Road and Abroad, but like you said, we kind of got to move on.
With the State and Carolina game all summed up, I do believe there is an elephant in the room that we need to address now. With Mac Brown now out, not coaching the bowl game, the search for a new head coach has begun for UNC. And one interesting headline that has been making the rounds right now, a name that I would not expect to be in contention, is now being up for debate. I can't believe that, like, I'm saying this. I'm surprised that it's on the table, but Bill Belichick is now on the table for potential UNC head coach hires. Bill Belichick has recently met with the athletic director at UNC, and negotiations are on the table. I am not going to lie. I don't know how I feel about this. Like, this could either go down as one of the most historic and, like, win of a hire that you could have at UNC, or this could be like the beginning of the end of UNC football. Like, this is an absolute, that would be an absolute, I can't even describe it right now. I'm going to be real. Like, NFL legend Bill Belichick could be, we live in the world where NFL legend Bill Belichick could be the head coach for UNC football. And I, I like, the reason why I'm so speechless right now and why I'm just at a loss for words is Bill Belichick has some of the most, like, he's created some of the greatest defenses of all time, one of the greatest defensive minds. But in his last couple years in New England without Tom Brady, Patriots kind of fell apart. I'm not completely saying that Tom Brady was the reason why Bill Belichick was successful. I wholeheartedly that it was just two great minds coming together at a single time, and they were able to create a dynasty off of that. And I believe that if UNC were to lock down this hire, UNC could, like, get some of the best recruits that they have ever seen and in the history of their school. And I'm excited to see that. But the problem with UNC has never been getting recruits, because with Mac Brown, UNC got recruits. I just want to see these recruits, these NFL talent level recruits, actually being utilized to the fullest extent. And I sometimes wonder if Bill Belichick's offense would be able to work in the collegiate level. It, obviously, he had success in the NFL, but collegiate offenses fundamentally run different than NFL offenses. You need to utilize your weaknesses as a college to really work at the collegiate level. You can't just always, like, there are schemes that only work in college and that can't work in the NFL. And I don't know if Bill Belichick is going to be able to master those schemes that are necessary to master at the collegiate level. But it's just such an out there hire that part of me is just like, hell yeah, let's do it. Like, if we're going to go down, I want to go down on a flaming ship that's sinking in the sunset with war cannons growing off, and that would be this hire. Like, if we're going down, I'm going down swinging. And this would be an absolute hell of a hire. Do I think it's actually going to happen? Part of me says no. There's no way that Bill Belichick is going to be coaching at the collegiate level anymore, like, at all. Like, I just don't see that happening. But if it happens, I would be extremely surprised. But I would be like, I'm not going to lie. You have my attention. You, like, that is what I wanted. I wanted a out there hire that can, like, draw eyes to UNC football And if we get Bill Belichick, that's going to be insane. I don't even know why Bill Belichick even humored the idea. Part of me says, like, if you're humoring the idea and it's this public right now, it's got to be like almost in stone right now. But I just don't know what to think about it. Garrett, do you have any, like, I know you're a State fan, but what are your thoughts on this?
What I think is the most likely scenario, if he is indeed hired, I think it would be kind of more of like a Mac Brown 2.0. Like the initial success would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mac's first couple of seasons, I forget exactly how it went, but I know Carolina had some very successful seasons. I know did a few ACC championship appearances, but it was like he never got over the hump of the ACC championship. He kind of Mac kind of bottomed out, not bottomed out, kind of like rounded off at like 10-2, 9-3, similar to like Dave Doran's ceiling of like that 9-10 win season. Like he couldn't really break the barrier. Now, obviously, Bill Belichick's a great offensive mind. One of your concerns that I think has been one of my concerns as well is you kind of hinted at his years in New England, that his Brady-less years. And like you said, it wasn't because he had Brady or didn't have Brady, but I will say the years leading up to Brady and the years following Brady were not pretty in New England. And that's like no slight to the people on those teams. Like Drew Bledsoe was obviously a great quarterback, but if you look at just kind of how he handled himself in New England, and ultimately I know the NFL is a money game, but it kind of got to the point where he wanted to see like how much could he not spend and still be good with Brady, to the point when Brady left, there was no weapons left on the team. And I'm not, like you said, that success wasn't just because Brady was there, it's because it was Brady and Belichick. But when he spent so many years skimping by, like, how much can I get away with? Like, how much can I get away with not? How many Super Bowls can I still win with not, having big name guys or big name? And I know the recruits would come with Belichick, but I just think with NIL and him kind of being, how he was not the mind of being a big spender. I just
Well,
think
what he like not spending in the NFL is a whole different game than not spending in college. I feel like
yeah.
I feel like it's you like there's no like in the NFL you have an incentive not to overspend. You have like market caps and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's no market cap in the in college. It's just spend as much as you like, try to get as much money as you can. And if you're Bill Belichick, the donor dollars are going to be flowing in. My question is, how, like, this has got to just be like a slight on Bill Belichick's like resume as a coach. Like going to UNC after coaching like the New England Patriots, like that's almost got to be. It's like, I'm not saying it's humiliating. I'm just saying like it's so out there. Like this could very like, it's not going to ruin your reputation as a coach, but this is just like a major step down.
Yeah. And one of my things is, so a lot of people's criticisms, maybe not necessarily your criticism, was like Mac Brown was getting up there in age. He hinted that he couldn't do it anymore. Belichick's this, if I'm not mistaken, is the same age or less than a year younger than him.
Yeah.
So I don't think Belichick would be, unless Belichick plans to coach into his 80s, I don't think he's the long-term solution. Unless the AD is trying to skirt by for a few years going, hey, wealth of football knowledge, we'll get by with a few 7-5, 8-4 seasons. But like you said,
you can't be getting 7-5 seasons with Bill Belichick, though. If you have Bill Belichick,
that's what I'm saying. It's like, that'd be like like you said, almost like an insult to him. Like,
yeah.
I'm
sorry, if you're getting Bill Belichick, you want to win a national championship. I'm not saying you're going to, but that's the message that you're sending.
My thing with Belichick is, now obviously he could be a great first-year head coach. He could win the Natty first year, but I'm saying like with how old he is, like ultimately like it took Harbaugh 5 years to turn Michigan into what they were. And obviously I do think Bill Belichick's no slight to Harbaugh. He's a better football mind than Harbaugh, but I think that's just because we've seen more of Belichick. Yeah. Harbaugh's still very young in his career.
Mm-hmm.
But it took in Michigan, like Michigan's a perennial power in college football. And it took him 5 years to bring Michigan to the brink, like to the summit. It took him 5 years to get him there. And some of those years were rough. Some of those first years under Harbaugh were rough. And Harbaugh's a big name. Now, he's not Belichick big, but with how old Belichick is, now, like I said, he could turn it around immediately. Do you have 5 or 6 years of them trying to figure it out?
Absolutely. Like that's the main thing that I'm trying to say. Like, if you're hiring Bill Belichick, that you don't want the 5-year wait. Like, that's the message that you're sending. You want like almost an immediate turnaround. You're probably granted one season of mediocrity. And by mediocrity, I'm saying barely making a bowl game. You might be granted that. But year 2, you're going to have to ramp it up. Does Bill Belichick want to coach that long? Like, I only see Bill Belichick coaching for about maybe 4 years, maybe 5.
Can he take going? Could he mentally stomach? Would he be okay with himself mentally if he went 6-6 in the ACC, like his first year? No, I'm not doubting him. I'm just saying, I'm looking at Bill Belichick's coaching resume here, and he's never coached in college. I'm not saying that rules him out. I'm just saying, when other coaches like this have come back and been really successful at the college level, like thinking Harbaugh and Saban, they had coached at the collegiate level before. Now, I will say I know Belichick was one of Saban's mentors when he was in the NFL. I know Saban coached for Belichick. I believe was he Belichick's OC or DC?
DC.
Yeah, he was and I know that he's like his mentor, but that was after I believe Saban was the coach at LSU.
I said like this conversation right here is like the conversation, like, not to bring politics. This was the conversation had in like 2015 with the conversation of, hey, could Trump be president? Like, it was so like people forget the novelty then was so out there. And like, not to try to bring politics into it, that's just how weird this is. Like, I'm like the consensus that I'm getting around campus and like the group chats that I'm in UNC that like discuss sports, everyone's like, is this allowed? Like, no, but like this, like UNC is not supposed to get a big name like this. Like, yeah, Mac Brown's a big name, but that's like, we all kind of like, we all agreed, like, oh, we got him, like, he's just coming back because he's tired of like chilling on ESPN or whatever he was doing then, and he wants to go back to a job that he's done before. Like, yeah, sure, doors always open for you, come in. Bill Belichick, who has, to my knowledge, no ties to UNC whatsoever, what's his incentive for going here? What blackmail do we have to like have the conversation of him starting the hiring process? There's like, I'm sorry, I can't believe it right now. This is like too, I don't know if it's too good to be true, because I'm not even sure if it would be a good hire, but it's just such a ballsy move that I don't know how UNC could pull it off. And even if it does, there would be so many more questions than answers. But like, part of me just wants to say, hey, if you have the ability to do it, screw it. Why not? Let's see what happens. Like, yeah, UNC has festered in mediocrity for the longest time. Why not just see what happens?
And I do think it would be an interesting, if he wants to be the coach, I'd be like, I don't know how you can say no. Now, I know under Mac Brown, UNC's had some success. Even like, I know I alluded to a lot of their successes at the earlier parts of his tenure, but he did have some success towards the latter years. I mean, obviously going to the ACC championship, not last year, the year before, 2 years ago, where they went and played against Clemson, Drake May's freshman year. And I know it's like, how can you say no? But it's like you said, it's like just the age thing is like, it's not even this, do you let Bill Belichick have the longest? Does he have that long in him to like establish something going in? I think with how many pieces Carolina's losing this year, can you really afford to like pay Belichick money and like, no, it's also is who are you keeping? Like, I mean, I know Hampton would probably stay to play for Belichick, but
Yeah,
that's up in
definitely.
the air whether or not like would he go get his bag. Like, I do think his draft stock at an all-time high, but like, would you turn down like as a running back turn down the chance to play for him? Like, probably not. Um, does Criswell have another year?
He's a senior, but I think I think the consensus is they're probably going to be moving on.
And then does the quarterback who got hurt, did he get granted his medical red shirt? Because I
Yeah,
know he
yeah,
wanted to put in one, so he'll likely be coming back. But then again, that starts with the like. No, granted, maybe he's had off season to kind of get back into it, but
but I gotta like UNC
you'd
would
have to
be a
go off of the quote.
transfer portal magnet, I would say.
Yeah, they
Like,
would.
but so was Dion his first year. So like, just because you do well on the transfer portal, you're going to need to do that for like 2 years before things start like come to fruition. But then yet again, like the Big 12 when Dion, well, the Pac 12 then was a lot. Like Colorado was in the Pac 12 then, and I'd say the Pac 12 when Dion joined, it was a lot stronger than the Big 12 right now. So I think that
Yeah,
definitely played into Dion's success. And I think the Pac 12 then is a lot stronger than the ACC right now. Like just looking at like traditional UNC matchups, like with a Bill Belichick that has a extensive like portal polls, I would say a UNC could beat teams like State, Duke, Wake Forest. I think that the North Carolina itself would be under wraps. I would say probably questionable against Clemson and Miami. I don't see UNC being able to beat them year one. Syracuse has been on the up, so I don't see UNC being able to beat them. So, but I would say like a year one Bill Belichick, the floor would be like at least 8-4.
like beat your rivals, like then pick up a few, like then your non-conference ones, like
The floor
beat
would
your
probably,
rivals.
and like just the way the conferences lined up, like the floor would be you need to make conference championship. Not saying you need to win, you just need to make conference championship at maybe like 8-4 or 9-3, if that's possible. Or just be on the outside looking in on conference championship. But I don't know. I was just so out there that it needed to be brought up. I kind of brought it up a little bit with talking about flag planting, but that's just something that needs to be covered. But moving on to other games of this past week, Georgia Tech. Gareth, I know you had some opinions on this game.
I think Georgia Tech had it. I just think there were. This is gonna sound weird. There were calls that I don't necessarily agree with down the stretch. Now, were those the one that ultimately decided the game? No, but I definitely feel like there was kind of a tilt towards Georgia in terms of their comeback, where I felt like the Stripes kind of allowed Georgia to gain momentum to get back into the game. Ultimately, yes, should Georgia Tech's defense have not allowed them to come back from 17 down? Yes. But I think that you always use the phrase, this is more of like a this team's loss than a win. I feel like this is more of a Georgia win than it is a Georgia Tech loss. I mean, Georgia Tech, I feel like, had them dead to rights. And on that Haynes King fumble that allowed Georgia to tie it up, that was textbook targeting. That was not to the head. It was head or neck. It's head or neck area. That was helmet to the neck area. Yes, did it ultimately pop the ball? Yes, but that is your textbook targeting. But as Aiden and I always say, how dare you question the SEC?
Yeah.
How dare you let that happen on Georgia's senior night? How dare you?
Yeah.
So That's all I'll
I'll say
say.
this though, Haynes King, he absolutely put Georgia Tech on his back. Like absolute valiant game on his part. He made a fan out of me. Just like 3 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns, 300 yards passing, 110 yards rushing. He just he did the best that he could, and like it was an absolute valiant effort on his part. A couple plays like he was short, like either on like running and stuff like that, but like he absolutely like won my heart over just by like the amount of like guts he played with that in that game. Haynes King definitely made a fan out of me watching that game.
Yeah, I've been a fan of him. It's just like his story is awesome. He went to Texas A&M under Jimbo, thought he was going to be the man, #1 overall recruit, gets benched, kind of falls out of favor at Texas A&M for other quarterback. He actually lost out to Max Johnson, the UNC quarterback who went down with an injury earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of bounced around, came to Georgia Tech because he's kind of got that running ability, kind of helped Georgia Tech revitalize their offense, kind of going from, their triple option flex bone to their spread triple option, kind of slash smash and dash that they run. They're kind of power spread molded with the option. And he's kind of found his mainstay. And he's just kind of a fun story. I hope he's got another year of eligibility. I know State lost him, but I'd love to see him play another year in the ACC. I love to see him get that one final shot at Georgia. His post game speech was kind of hard to watch. He's like, it's kind of hard doing everything right. Putting in the work, just as having something like this happen. I really hope he has another year. He deserves another shot at Georgia. And just with that, I looked up. Haynes King has one more year of eligibility. I know people are talking about him possibly entering the portal. I think this man's a Georgia Tech Yellow Jacket. This man's the Yellow Jacket. This man wants his shot at Georgia next year. He wants Georgia in Bobby Dodd. Looking at their roster, Georgia Tech is returning a lot of pieces. I think this man wants his grudge match in Atlanta next year. So,
Yep.
With that being said, moving on. Without this week, there's some other games we'll highlight. I mean, obviously some big ones, but I outside of the 3 flag planting incidents, I really don't feel like much happened this rivalry week. I guess we'll go to the big elephant in the room for rivalry week. Ohio State, Michigan. I forget if we were on air when you said this, but you had like a take that I thought I agree with, and you kind of opened my eyes to it. I forget if you said on air, but I'll let you lead with this one because you had feelings about this Michigan. Not feelings, but you know what I'm saying. Like you had an interesting take on this that I feel like people need to hear.
Well, number one, I feel like Michigan was handing this game to Ohio State, and Ohio State was absolutely unable to like capitalize on anything. Special teams play by Ohio State was awful. How like there were so many points where like Michigan would throw an interception and I'll be like, okay, Ohio State's going to probably run away with this one now. But the number one thing that I thought was the like biggest like detriment to Ohio State is Ohio State tried to play like they're not. Like they tried to play like hard nose. We're gonna run the football down your throat, and we're gonna absolutely like demoralize you because it was a rivalry game. They wanted to be the bigger dominant team. They wanted to show that they had the bigger guys and they could do that. That's not how you're going to beat Michigan, especially if you're Ohio State. Ohio State, they're better passing. They're better. Like in theory, they should be better passing, but only 175 yards passing. Howard went 19 for 33, 1 touchdown. Ohio State just the offense wasn't playing the way that it should play. They tried to, like, for a little while they were like trying to like show that they were like the more dominant team. That's not how you win. That's not how you win if you're Ohio State. This, like, I feel like Ryan Day and Chip Kelly kind of, I noticed this from like the Notre Dame game last year. Lou Holtz made a comment like saying like, "Oh hi, uh, I'm not going to do a Lou Holtz impression, but he basically said in short that Ohio State isn't a physical team when it comes to like big games. Ohio State won that game, but it seems like Ryan Day like really took that to heart. For like every once in a while you'll get this game where like Ohio State is keeping it close and they're not utilizing their offensive weapons the way that they should, and almost out of pride. They want to prove that they're something that they're not. They want to what they're the type of, they embody the guy that like the bodybuilder that thinks that he's like really good at fighting or boxing. So he goes into a gym and he's probably like 200 pounds of just pure muscle and go like, I can take anybody in this room. But he doesn't utilize like his actual strengths because he has no strengths when it comes to like actual physical fighting. And that just absolutely gets him killed. That's what it like. That's how Ohio State played in this game, and I, I was just absolutely devastating loss for Ohio State. People were saying like, "Hey, maybe fire Ryan Day or something like that." Honestly, my reaction at the end of the day was like, "Oh my gosh, Ryan Day is going to get fired from this game." I don't see that happening, but like even if Ohio State somehow wins the national championship out of this, this is like one of those. This has got to be the worst loss in Ohio State history. I'm sorry. It's a 7-5 Michigan that has no right to beat you. They tried to hand the game to you. They got in your head. That's it. There's nothing that can be said right now. Michigan deserved to plant that flag in the middle of your field. Michigan deserves to live in your head rent free forever now. They have that real estate now. I'm like, people are always saying, oh, this game just means more. This game just means more. However, Michigan views this game is beneficial to them. Ohio State views this game in a way that's detrimental to them. I think they take, like, people might say they don't take it seriously. I think they might take it almost too seriously. If you're trying to adopt offensive strategies that don't work for you just so you could win the pride game, that's how you lose. They live in your head rent free. That's how you lost this game. You didn't utilize your weapons to the fullest extent of their ability. Howard had a horrible game today. Your rushing attack was not working. You need to find new, like, maybe utilize like shorter passing games, screens maybe a little bit more. I don't know what to do. They handed you this game and you fumbled it. They live in your head rent free. They're the big bad monster under your bed, and you're scared of them right now. Maybe it's because this rivalry just means more, but if it meaning more is causing you to piss yourself in the bed because you think the monster's under your bed, you need to reassess going into this offseason because this loss is unacceptable if you're an Ohio State fan. That's just my opinion.
No, I agree. It was just with the offensive firepower that they have, you would have thought you would have seen more from them.
Yeah.
Like Michigan couldn't move the ball. This looked like the normal, like the Big Ten games of old, where it's like you play field position, you swap field goals, and maybe you get a touchdown on the like drive, you win the field position battle. Maybe that's essentially what this was. And in tight rivalry games like this, you need players like Will Howard to step up, and he just didn't. And I know the scheme that they were trying to implement failed him, but you cannot throw 2 interceptions in a game like this.
But their rushing attack just had no like oomph behind it. So they had 33 total passing attempts in this game. They completed 19 of them. That's okay, fine. They had 26 rushing attempts in this game, only got 77 yards. They were trying to run the ball when they just absolutely couldn't. And that's all I can say about it. They tried to show that they were the most physical team at times. They had 12 carries by Judkins and 10 carries from Henderson. Both of them only got like a combined like 67 yards. That's it. They just weren't able to get the rushing attack going. And I feel like I don't know, like I'm at a weird spot where I'm like, maybe you should have tried rushing it a little bit more, or maybe you should have just gone completely passing in this one. I know Will Howard had 2 interceptions that were god awful, but this rushing attack was not it for you. And you tried to use it a little bit too much over and over again, trying to show that you're the more physical team, and that didn't work. I don't know how you get reduced to only 77 yards in rushing against Michigan, against this Michigan team. I'm sorry. I'm at a loss on this one. Like Davis Warren, like quarterback from Michigan, did not have a good game passing. 62 yards, 2 interceptions. They were able to run it down your throat because that's what they do. They can run it down your throat. You can't run it down their throat. And you're just going to need to accept that and find new ways around that.
Yeah, that's really all I can say. I feel like at this point they're so like up in arms about the Michigan game that like, and ultimately because it is rivalry week, and I know rivalries do matter and they're big games, and I know I've seen people on the internet say they'd rather, even if they win the national championship but they lost rivalry week, they said they'll still have like an emptiness, like something was missing from that season, and I think that's valid.
Yes.
Like I think that's valid. Some people on the internet are like, "That's stupid," like you got like rivalries are stupid. That is one of the reasons why I like college football more than the NFL. Like, yes, there are rivalries in the NFL, and I know like one of the most bitter rivalries in the NFL, Packers Bears. I just really don't feel like there's a lot in it. That could be with the Bears being mid lately. Who knows? Falcons Saints, another supposed heated rivalry. When's the last time you saw the Falcons and the Saints get into a brawl?
I mean, it's harder to get in. Like the NFL is a little bit harder to like really get in a brawl. Like I understand in college because these are people that you've probably played against in high school. Maybe like somebody like you either went to high school with, or somebody that you're from your region that was like always like maybe the 4-star athlete, and you're like also another 4-star athlete. So I can understand like the rivalries in college a little bit more. NFL, it's a little bit harder. I'd say the toughest, like most brutal rivalry in the NFL, in my opinion, will always be Steelers Ravens.
Yeah,
because that one I get from the fan base. They absolutely hate each other.
Yeah,
but that's just my opinion on it. But I do want to talk about rivalry renewed. And I'm not gonna lie, this game kind of like it did not live up to my expectations. Texas A&M, I was just like
snooze
Texas
fest.
got like, I hate to use the term snooze fest, but this just Texas A&M just really wasn't able to get anything going. They got 1 touchdown. They were like near the end of the third quarter, it looked like maybe stuff had started aligning, but I never got the feeling that Texas was ever really in danger in this game. They were up 17-0. They won 17-7. I just felt like a lot of the teams went a little bit complacent in the second half. Like I know Texas A&M got its touchdown, but this game, in my opinion, it was more disappointing, like considering the ramifications of this game. This game, you win, you go into the SEC championship. And for me, I just wasn't really impressed with either team. Like Texas had a good showing, but like overall, I just wasn't overly impressed with their performance against Texas A&M. But that's just me.
I wasn't either. The game was obviously interesting. I mean, Texas just kind of ran all over them. Quintravion Windsor had almost 200 yards rushing. So I mean, they had a dominant ground attack. But I mean, I will say it was nice getting to see Arch Manning getting a little love in there. They brought him in some short yardage situation to run some type of option play where he took it 15 yards at the house. That was interesting to watch. That's about all that game I watched. It was kind of
I switched it off for a second, and then I switched it back, and I saw Arch Manning in, and I was like, "Oh no, what the hell happened?"
I thought they had just pulled. Like I wasn't paying that much attention. I thought they had just pulled Quinn Ewers at that point. Because
Yeah.
I mean, Texas's offense was kind of sputtering and spinning its wheels. And sometimes you pull the quarterback for the drive or two, just kind of like mentally reset them. So, and I thought after Arch Manning scored, I'm like, shit, are they gonna? They might if Arch Manning just did that on his first drive, they might pull Ewers. But then, like I said, I haven't been paying that much of attention. They just brought him in for that play. They brought him in for a few plays. So that's about it. Elsewhere in rivalry week, I mean,
Notre Dame takes
Notre Dame.
Notre Dame takes care of business against USC. I mean, Notre Dame really set it off in that third quarter, scoring like 3 touchdowns. It was like overall a great offensive showcase on both sides, but just USC made mistakes that Notre Dame made them pay for, and just Notre Dame proved that they were the more dominant team in this one. Kept it like after like into the fourth quarter, it really seemed like out of reach for USC, but then they were driving a little bit, threw a pick six, and then that was pretty much it. And then USC scored a garbage time touchdown after that to make the score a little bit closer than it like actually was. But overall, good win by Notre Dame. Notre Dame's just proven that they've really rebounded since that NIU loss earlier in the season, and excited to see what they do in the playoff now. They're guaranteed lock for the playoff now.
Yeah. Elsewhere, I hinted at the Arizona State game. Nothing really too crazy happened there. Just kind of a beat down. That's about it.
Yeah.
Run game kind of ran wild, so that's about all I'll say about that. Another big one, playoff implications, Syracuse, Miami. I said it on Twitter and I said it on Instagram in the comments something. Syracuse is like that frisky 12 seed, and then maybe even as high as a 10 seed in the NCAA tournament where they've got a 3-point shooter who he either is 0 for 12 from the field from 3 or 9 of 12, where their success kind of is ebbs and flows with how that, that kind of hot and cold 3-point shooter goes in that NCAA tournament. And that 3-point shooter for them is Kyle McCord. Their success rides or dies on whether he can light it up in a game. And he did. He lit it up. He had 26, 36, 380 yards, 3 touchdowns. They got it done. Cam Ward, Miami didn't have a bad game either, but I think Miami just made more mistakes. I mean, Restrepo coughing up that ball. McCord himself was perfect, but I think a big turning point in that game was when Xavier Restrepo on that screen pass where he got decent yards, but he then just coughed up the ball when he ran into contact. And I think that's really what kind of set that game on the path it did. I mean, Miami was leading for most of the game up until about the midway point of the third quarter when Syracuse tied it, and then off the fumble went on to score, and then and then Miami, they took a field goal with 3 minutes left and then never got the ball back. I think if you're Miami, you have to in that situation where you got the field goal, you have to take a touchdown there. Like there's 3 minutes left in the game, and I know you had timeouts, but it was 4th and goal. You've got to take the touchdown there. I know it's 4th and goal from the 10, but like still.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on this game? I think this was a greatly played game, but
I think I called this one.
I think you did. We'll have to rewatch the tape, but I think you did call this one.
Yeah, I think like I kind of knew. I felt like Miami was going to get like a little bit complacent and rely a little bit too much on their offense. And if your defense can't stop Kyle McCord, I think that's going to be the downfall of you, because Syracuse lives and dies by Kyle McCord, and if he's having a on game, they're going to win. If he's having an off game, God help Syracuse. But Miami just really wasn't able to stop him, and that just ended up costing them their playoff position. So nothing much more you can say about that. But one more game, like another game that I want to bring up before we probably go into the Clemson South Carolina game. I want to talk about the Iron Bowl, Auburn versus Alabama. I was not impressed with Alabama in this win at all. And the fact that they're in the playoff picture right now after losing to Oklahoma in this very middling win against Auburn is very disappointing to me. That first half, Auburn, like the first half, Alabama was up 14-6. In my opinion, in everything other than the scoreboard, Auburn was the more physical team. Auburn won and Auburn in this game won the passing, like just unable to score, but 300 yards passing, 1 touchdown by their quarterback. Hang on, let me pull this up. Peyton Thorne. I really wasn't too impressed with this win over Auburn. Just Alabama, like, I don't know, like, there's just, like, on everything except the, like, score sheet, it just felt like Auburn was more dominant in this one. Granted, they weren't able to stop Milroe with his rushing attack, but other than that, like, that's how Alabama skated by with this game. It's just off the legs of Milroe. Other than that, like, everything else, I was just very disappointed with in Alabama on this game. And I might be the only one to think this, but I'm just kind of at a loss right now. So
I feel the same way with Alabama. I feel like Jalen Milroe is kind of like their only offense. He led rushing and passing for that game. I don't know if that's really the case every game, but when he's like the biggest, and obviously, you know, the quarterback's going to have the most yards in the team because usually passing. But, like, I just feel like in games where you're able to stop Milroe, like this Alabama team's screwed. I feel like if they get led in the playoff, in my opinion, they might be a first-round exit. And I know, like, I don't think they deserve to be in the playoff, okay, because the committee what they've said doesn't matter. Like, has shown it doesn't matter. Head-to-head, they've thrown that out the window. Strength of schedule, which I know that SEC loves to harp on the strength of schedule thing, but I think they're inconsistent with each week's rankings with just the reasonings they give for certain things. So I just want some consistency out of them. And obviously, like I said, I don't think Alabama deserves to be in this playoff. And I think they may be a first-round exit because if they do sneak in at that 11 seed, they will be the away team for, I believe, 1 game. maybe 2. So,
yeah.
Jumping to the Clemson South Carolina game. This game was a really good game, low scoring, but good. South Carolina able to come out with the win, scoring twice within the final 7 minutes to win 17-14. Clemson had a lead 14-7 going into the final 7 minutes, like I said. Then South Carolina got a field goal, and then they had a Lenore Sellers 20-yard run, which ultimately sealed the deal. Cade Klubnik had an all right day. It was 24-36 for 280 yards and interception. It's not really a stellar day for Clemson. I mean, they did have 2 rushing touchdowns, but I think Cade Klubnik's got to be better. But I do realize this is a rivalry game. Cade Klubnik did have 2 rushing touchdowns himself.
That pick off of from Klubnik in the clutch, that was I'm saying it was bad luck on Klubnik. I think it was deflected and caught by South Carolina, which ended up sealing it. That's what really cost Clemson this game, and I think it's unfortunate. But Clemson now still has a shot at the ACC, so their playoff hopes are still technically alive. But good win by South Carolina, and South Carolina just proven that they have probably one of the best resumes in college football right now, in my opinion, at least.
I mean, they do. I think they're in for. They're on the up, and if they can maintain their roster as they go forward, I know they're obviously going to lose people to graduation, but if they can maintain their roster in the portal and re-up their kind of areas that are weak, I think they could be in. I could think they could be in for a good few years in the SEC, and I think maybe not next year, but I do think they could be in for an SEC championship in the coming years. Elsewhere on rivalry week, is there any other game you wanted to highlight? I mean,
Iowa State secures their spot in the Big 12 championship and also gets their first 10-win season. I feel like win against Kansas State. It was close. Honestly, it was a little bit I wouldn't say a snoozer for me, but I never really thought Kansas State really had the edge on Iowa State. They seemed to be pretty dominant, and they just really kind of put the seal on it in the fourth quarter. But Iowa State holding Kansas State, securing their first 10-win season and a berth in the Big 12 championship. I thought that was a good story going in. First 10-win season. Now it's only Vanderbilt that doesn't have a 10-win season in college football.
They came close.
The power force.
They were a few one-possession games away from it this season, but still they search. Elsewhere, I know there's one I wanted to highlight before we moved on. Louisville versus Kentucky. I mean, obviously, we'll say it here. Aiden and I might have said earlier, Louisville and Duke should be ranked.
Absolutely.
I just think it's bias. Yes, Louisville does have some head scratchers of a loss, obviously Stanford, but they beat number 11 Clemson in Death Valley. They take Miami to the brink. They take Louisville to the brink. They take Notre Dame to the brink. They beat Georgia Tech, who just hung with Georgia. What's there not to love about this team? Same thing with Duke. They've hung with good teams. I mean, Louisville put the beat down on Kentucky. Yes, it's a rivalry game, and I know Kentucky's not great this season. They're 4-8. But just the rhetoric that's been going around about ACC versus SEC, if what happened, we've talked about it for years. What happens in the ACC football season finally happened to the SEC. Parity. But what we said would happen, happened. We've talked about, the Paul Fendenbaums and the ESPN people going, oh, look at the depth of the SEC. We knew this would happen. But when depth happens in the ACC, it's, oh, look at this poverty-ass conference. I'm just saying, if an ACC team, actually, you know what happened? An ACC team did lose to Vanderbilt to start the season. And you know what the rhetoric was? They're ass. They suck. The ACC is no good.
Mm-hmm.
But when a few weeks later, when Alabama rolls into Vanderbilt and loses, it's just a deep conference.
Yeah.
But when Virginia Tech rolls in there and loses on a 2-point conversion, it's the ACC's ass.
Yep.
When Georgia, and Ole Miss could be good. When Georgia loses gets blown out by Ole Miss, who, yes, I think by their record's a good team, but I think they're questionable at times. Like that Florida loss definitely wasn't great. It's just either you let parity be parity, or is it either let parity be parity for the sake of having a deep conference, or it's you can't have it both ways. You can't be asked for having parity in your conference, but you can't then. It would be one thing if this were obviously like parity in the Mountain West is different than parity in the SEC. Like that's just different. We're not saying that parity means you're equal and compromise the conferences. No, SEC is probably a better conference right now, but I don't think the SEC is as good as they think they are, and is as beyond the ACC as they think they are either. Like I just, you get what I'm saying. Like I'm not saying the SEC is awful. I'm just saying there's a little bit of some hypocrisy going on here.
Indeed.
Elsewhere, anything else you want to mention, or do you want to move on to conference championship week?
I mean, let's move on to conference championship week. But one thing I do want to shout out: Duke got the win over Wake Forest. Jordan Moore, absolutely stellar last second touchdown to send Duke to 9 wins this season. Duke pretty much takes North Carolina. The state of North Carolina this season. They're on the up as a football program right now. I feel like we should bring it up since we are a NC sports podcast. That play, absolutely phenomenal. I don't know what Wake Forest defense was doing, but that was a great play, and I'm excited to see where Duke goes for their bowl game. But
I am as well.
On to a quick conference championship week. Want to go through every single game?
So, I mean, we might as well. I mean, there's not many of them, and I feel like some of them there's obvious picks. I mean, obviously for a group of 5, we're not going to go into as much in depth, but we can. And we can also talk some certain doomsday scenarios for this, but we can start. Is there any particular game you want to start with, or just we want to?
Well, let's I want to go in order of how from kickoff. So starting Friday, 7:00 kickoff for the Conference USA Championship. We got Western Kentucky versus Jacksonville State. And this one, I really do like Jacksonville State. Hang on, let me bring up everything surrounding this. So what's interesting with this is back-to-back games for Western Kentucky and Jacksonville State. Western Kentucky actually beat Jacksonville State 19-17 this past weekend, and now they're facing each other, but Jacksonville State is favored at home. This is going to be pretty interesting, in my opinion. I like analytics saying that Jacksonville State will win, and I think their rushing attack is definitely a lot stronger than Western Kentucky's. And if they can really get the run game going on this one, I think they'll get the win. One thing that I do have to mention, it is always harder for a team that has beaten a team already in a season to win again, because usually like adjustments are made, and I feel like Jacksonville State is really going to be like coming out like with a chip on their shoulder, wanting to like set the games straight, and it's at home for Jacksonville State. Like that's the reason why I'm going with them on this one, and I think they're going to take I believe this is their first Conference USA championship.
Yeah, it's only their second season in FBS.
Yeah.
So this is the first season they're let alone eligible for this. So yeah, I'm inclined to agree. Like you said, it's hard to beat the team the second time around. Plenty of exhibits of this. LSU, Alabama, that one season where they ended up in the national championship after playing each other in middle of the season. Not many other examples of this. The only other example where I think this is not the case is Oregon, Washington last year, but that's more of an outlier. But now, give me Jacksonville State and their option attack. Just the way they run that spread option offense, it's efficient, lethal, and they're able to run it down your throat in a variety of ways, whether it be option plays or power plays.
Now, following that, we're going to have an 8:00 kickoff on Fox. UNLV versus Boise State. Pretty much win and you get into the playoff.
For either team, or you think Boise State? Because I think if Boise loses here, it goes to Army of who gets in.
Well, technically, UNLV is ranked 20th and Army is ranked 24th. I do think Army should get into the playoff if UNLV wins, but I don't know how the playoff committee is going to be ranking that.
Yeah, indeed. I think I know it's harder to beat a team a second time around. Is this game at Boise State like the first meeting was?
It is at Boise State.
So they will be playing at Boise State twice. Usually I would err on the side of, just you can't beat a team twice in a season. But I just think, there's something about Mike Myers in that Boise State team. That's a reference because you need to look at how when Max Madsen's under center, look at how Ashton Genty stands when Madsen's under center. Not when he's in the shotgun. Look at how he stands when Madsen's under center. Just you'll know. Yeah, you'll get it. But what about you? What do you think?
Give me UNLV on this one.
The go-go offense, the go-go.
I don't know. Boise State has been slowing down recently, and I think UNLV has got they almost have nothing to lose on this one. Boise State has everything to lose on this one. And I don't like their performance lately with Wyoming and a couple other teams that they've been playing a little bit too close. I think they're I have a feeling on UNLV on this one.
Yeah, I will say they do have the offense to do it. They run this really up-tempo, almost Oregon-esque triple option spread offense. They even invented their own shotgun, their own addition to the shotgun formation where they have their two running backs line up next to each other instead of on either side of the quarterback. If you haven't seen them, they're a really entertaining team to watch, and they play really fast. They run, like I said, the option out of the shotgun, and they're just an overall exciting team to watch. Simultaneously, this game will be going on at the same time. Army versus Tulane, not necessarily a win and you're in, but if UNLV possibly upsets Boise State and you win. Now, it depends, like you said, on how the committee will look at it, because Boise State is technically number 10 in the nation. So that would be 11-2 UNLV versus an 11-1 Army, where UNLV has a ranked win on the road. So I think that possibly could be the deciding factor there. But Army has to win this game first.
I think they're going to do it.
You think Army's going to do it or Tulane?
Army.
Yeah. I'd be inclined to agree. I will say Tulane has shown that they can stop an option team. Well, they absolutely stopped. They pretty much stopped Navy and ground them to a halt, screeching halt. Now, I will say Navy was missing significant players in that game. They were missing their quarterback. I think they're missing a few running backs as well. I believe Blake Horvath left that game with an injury, if I'm not mistaken. But we will see. I also do think Army overall maybe just be that much better of a team. But who knows? I
And
mean, I
it's
do know
at West
Navy.
Point. It's at West Point. I think Army is. I feel like the biggest misconception going into this year, like later into the year, is that Navy and Army are on the same level. I think Army is much better at running the triple option than Navy is. And I think that might be, I think Tulane might be expecting what they had against Navy to be against Army. So I'm going to be going with Army on this one.
Yeah, I agree. Navy is good this year, but their issue is when they've run into competition, like hard, tough competition, they turn the ball over a lot. I'll go back to the Notre Dame game. When Navy didn't turn the ball over, they had their way with that Notre Dame defense. They had their way with that defense. It was just they'd miss a pitch, they'd drop a snap. They'd have a special teams error. Had Notre Dame kept that game clean, that would have been a close game because Navy was imposing their will on offense. It was just, you can't turn the ball over. What was it, 7 times? It was either 6 or 7 times they turned the ball. You just can't do that. And you can't be a good football team and turn the ball over that many times. So I've got Army as well. That rushing attack, they can throw the ball if they need to, but Army also runs a different style of option where I feel like they focus more on power first. I mean, obviously they've got the triple option where, they can run it like an option, but I think Army definitely focuses more on like the power run facet of the option. But, I've got Army. I know the analytics don't see it that way, but I do think Army will pull this one out. It's at home. Both Army and Navy's ranked games where they've been against top 10 opponents have been on the road. And I think Army having a meaningful game at home will benefit them here.
Absolutely. And if they win this one, this will be the first conference championship that Army football team wins. I feel like this is too much history is on the line right now. And I think the stars are aligning for this. Army team is going to be at home, cold, perfect for a triple option game.
Up next, we've got the first Saturday game. It's Iowa State, Arizona State. Pretty much winner take all, winner goes to the playoff. Winner goes to the playoff. It's simple as that. The winner goes to the playoff. That's a lot on the line here. The matchup predictor and the analytics are leaning towards Iowa State, but in my opinion, this is going to sound kind of
just been too hot.
They're too hot. Their run game is too dominant. They will run you over. They will pound you to a pulp. Their quarterback also doesn't turn the ball over very often. He's 21 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Iowa State's quarterback Becht isn't much worse. He's 20-8 in terms of his interception to touchdown ratio. But I just think that run game is just, if you can get the run game going like they do, they're just so hard to stop.
I think so too. I think Arizona State's going to win this one. I think the run game's too dominant. And I think Arizona State's going to solidify their spot in the playoff.
Then up next,
Maction,
basically
baby.
a game with not really no implications for the playoff, but it's Maction, so we got to highlight it. 9-3 Ohio going up against 8-4 Miami of Ohio. It's kind of an interesting season for both teams. I'm not really sure how I feel on this one. Match predictor has Miami of Ohio. I'm just kind of looking at how each team's season has gone. Let me think. I really haven't paid much attention to Miami of Ohio. I've seen a little bit more from Ohio this season. Like I've watched a few of their more games. Miami of Ohio did win the matchup earlier in the season. So in this game, I believe no. This game isn't being played at the conference championship winner. This game is being played at Ford Field in Detroit.
Yeah, action plays in Ford Field.
You know what? I'm gonna stick to you can't beat a team. It's harder to beat a team twice. Give me the Ohio Bobcats.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you. I like the Miami of Ohio Redhawks on this one. I think they're like I've just been seeing. I like their passing attack a lot more. Ohio's passing attack has been kind of inconsistent, and that's I feel like not going to be really conducive to them winning. Parker Navarro, I hope I'm saying that right. He only has 10 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. So putting up prime Jameis Winston middle of the season numbers right now at the end of the season. I just think the passing attack from Miami is going to be what really gets Ohio on this one. Damn. Sorry, I got the hiccups. But I like Miami of Ohio in this one.
Up next, we've got another rematch. 4:00 on ABC. We've got the SEC championship with number 5 Georgia and number 2 Texas. Georgia won the earlier iteration of this. They won 30-15. Texas just came out flat that game. I think Texas is going to get them here. Georgia's just looked too shaky this year. It's been I think this is going to be a get-right game for Texas. They're going to finally look like they look. They're going to come back and look like they look like, or not. God, what am I saying? They're going to look like themselves again. They're going to look like that Texas team that we saw last year. I think Texas is going to take that and take the auto bid for the SEC. Now, do I think Georgia will still make the playoff? I don't know. Probably.
The playoff committee has been saying like Georgia's not going to lose a spot if they lose this game. I think Texas has it, and I think Georgia is still in the playoff. Whether you think that's fair or not, considering that they might be kicking SMU out if SMU loses the ACC championship. SEC bias aside, I think Texas has this one, but I still think Georgia's going to make the playoff. I think Texas isn't going to I don't like I said before, hard for a team to beat the same team twice, and I just don't think Texas is going to allow them to go off so easy.
Yeah. Up next, kicking off at 7:30, just short of the final two, we've got the Sun Belt Championship, Sun Belt Fun Belt, between Marshall and the Louisiana Lafayette Raging Cajuns. This one's going to be – analytics have 60% chance of Louisiana Lafayette winning. I see it as a little closer than that. I honestly have Marshall in this. Their quarterback's made very few mistakes this year. He's 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now I know the Lafayette quarterback's been about the same, 17-5, for a little bit more yards and a little bit more attempts. I've got Marshall here. This game, I believe, is at Louisiana Monroe, but I think Marshall's had a stronger schedule this year. They've been more dominant against the same opponents that Louisiana Monroe's had. Like Marshall destroyed App State. Like the teams that they've played in common, just Marshall's played better against them. And then not only that, but Marshall, they did get blown out at Ohio State. They hung around with Ohio State for about a quarter and a half. And I think that says something. Being able to, and I know they're saying that about Ohio State, who just lost an unranked Michigan. Marshall was able to hang with an Ohio State team for a quarter and a half. So I think not only that, but just like I said, the opponents they have in common. This Marshall team was also able to upset James Madison on the road in rivalry week. So I've got Marshall. They've got the momentum going for them.
I like the Raging Cajuns on this one. I just like their passing attack and combined with their rushing attack on this one. Uh, I think they've been really picking it up lately. They had a solid win against Troy, a solid win against UL Monroe. They had one slip up against Southern Alabama, but this Southern Alabama team has been a little bit tricky. They've been very hot and cold. So I'll just sum it up to it was kind of like they just had their number that day. But I'm really confident in the Raging Cajuns on this one, and I think they're going to get it done and solidify the Sun Belt championship.
Up next, we've got probably the one with the least implications and the one with the most implications. Starting off, we've got the Big Ten championship between number 3 Penn State and number 1 Oregon. That's so weird to say. But this game, I heavily disagree with the analytics on this one. You probably do too. This one has the analytics as Penn State having a 53% chance to win.
What the?
But Oregon's favored by 3. Don't know how that works.
I think Vegas odds and matchup predictor odds are two different things. Vegas odds are just like who are people betting on. Matchup predictor odds usually uses just analytics and computers to figure them out. I got Oregon winning this one. I'm sorry, I don't see Penn State was just not convincing in their Ohio State game whatsoever. Oregon proved to step up to the bat against Ohio State and win a pivotal matchup. I just think the Ducks are too hot, and I think they're going to take the Big Ten championship.
Yeah. There's a reason we stopped using computers to determine our national championship matchups. So I'm going to go against the computers here as well and say Oregon's going to take this pretty handily. The final one of the evening, the one that arguably has the most on the line here. Now, I will say the location of this game does favor Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
This game being in Charlotte, practically on the border with South Carolina. I'm unfamiliar with how SMU fans travel, so I could be wrong. And I don't know if there's rules about how many fans get tickets to either side or if it's like 50-50. But I will say this does look like a home game for Clemson, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, in terms of how it's going to play out, I'm really unsure of this game. SMU does, contrary to what ESPN's been saying, have 3 ranked wins. Don't let ESPN fool you saying that they don't. SMU has beaten a ranked Louisville, a ranked Pitt. Excuse me, they've got 2 ranked wins. They've beaten a ranked Louisville and a ranked Pitt. And they took a ranked decent BYU team to the wire before BYU went cold. But this Clemson team's no joke. That Georgia game where they got blown out, that was not the entirety of the story. That game was 6-0 at half, and Georgia exploded in that second half. So, not sure how I feel about this game, but in my opinion, you know what? Give me SMU. I'll take the ponies in this one.
Give me
SMU.
SMU.
That pains me to see. You SMU as well.
Give me SMU on this one. I just think their offense is too hot. I really like their passing attack. Even their rushing attack is really good. Every single game I've seen them, they've just been absolutely almost unstoppable. They've seemed to be the most complete team. Recently, every ACC team that has played them, like Boston College, played them to their best, but SMU still proves to be just able to prevail. And I'm hopping on the Pony Express. I think they're going to win the ACC championship. And however, I do think if they lose, I still like their chances of staying in the playoff. Like, I hope the playoff committee doesn't screw them over, especially if it's a close game. SMU loses, I still want to see them in the playoff.
I hope
And
the committee sees reason.
yeah, I'm sorry. But give me SMU on this one. I think they know, like, they can't leave it up to the committee on this one. They have too much to lose. They got to go all in. Like both teams are playing for their playoff spot right now, which isn't, like, you might say that's not fair, but that's just how it is right now. So give me SMU.
Yeah, I agree. It's as much as it pains me, as much as I like. Historically speaking, SEC the outside of Florida State teams' first years in the ACC, regardless of sports, usually are rough. But like I said, SMU did work in the portal after losing to Boston College in unconvincing fashion in a bowl game last year. SMU, did work in the portal, got better, kind of built themselves up into a powerhouse. So I agree. Um, I think that's it for our college football. Um, there's some things here and there I'd like to touch on. One thing that's, I guess, good news in terms of U.S. soccer is they did just kind of all massive media outlets, channels did a poll, and they found that based on viewership and game attendance, where do you think MLS ranks in terms of game attendance in all the world's like leagues?
Top 7.
Top 2.
Ooh.
MLS had the second highest average attendance out of any league, and that includes leagues like the French league that's really popular, the Bundesliga, the Serie A in Italy. The only one that they did not finish, that they did not have beat, was the Premier League, which the Premier League. The second most attended.
That's interesting. That's very interesting.
Now, I'm not out here saying the MLS is just as good, because I think the MLS still has a long way to go. I just think that's great for U.S. soccer. It's growing. Things are going well. So that's all I'll say. You got anything else to add? I know. Is there a UFC fight this weekend?
UFC 310 this weekend in Nevada, Las Vegas. I'm not going to lie. I was very skeptical of this card. They kind of pulled something together very last minute, but we can go through some of the early prelims some of the prelim fights, some of the main card fights. And I think this is shaping up to be a pretty decent card. Not going to lie, not the strongest ending the UFC could have this year, especially with such a strong year, such amazing cards. This one's kind of ending off on a little bit of a whimper, but I think there's still some good fights to take away from this. Some very interesting prelim fights, which these are the free fights that you can watch on ESPN2 and FX. These are going to be available for everyone to watch. Aljamain Sterling, former featherweight champion, is going to be going up against Mozavar Ilovev. He's a Russian fighter, undefeated. Aljamain Sterling, really solid featherweight champion. Eventually lost to Sean O'Malley and lost his title. Aljamain Sterling kind of took a little bit of a slide recently, but I think he's going to be coming back in a big way in this one. I don't know why he's actually predicted to lose this one, which I'm pretty surprised to see that, but I don't know. I really like his chances to win this one. I think he's going to be coming back and making a really another run for the featherweight championship. After that, another interesting prelim that's going to be free to watch is going to be Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. Two old heads when it comes to like UFC fighting. Really strong in light heavyweight, but I'm going to probably have to go with Dominic Reyes on this one. Just overall, he fights in southpaw. I really like his striking percentage, and he's kind of got a mediocre takedown average. But I can't go up against Dominic Reyes on this one. Just going through, he's kind of had he had a little bit of a losing streak going on for a while, but he's returning for the first time. His last fight was in 2022. He's coming back. Well, actually, no. His last fight was in 2024, earlier this year. But before that, he was on like a pretty big hiatus for 2 years. Got a good win against Dustin Jacoby. I think he's going to be continuing. I think he's going to be creating a little bit of a win streak right now. I got Dominic Reyes winning this one. The championship run for Dominic Reyes starts again right now. Probably not, but I don't know. I want to see Dominic Reyes doing good in the light heavyweight division. He kind of fell off a little bit, but I want to see him do good. Going in to the pay-per-view card, there are 3 fights I really want to highlight. The last fight is going to be a historic fight, regardless. This is going to be historic, but building up to it, we got Cyril Gane versus Alexander Volkov. I don't like Cyril Gane that much. Like, I know he's on it. He's only got 2 losses, one against Francis Ngannou, one against John Jones in heavyweight. But I'm just not that high on him. I like Alexander Volkov a lot more. He's got a strong striking game, and I've Cyril Gane literally just is just off in France, fucking off somewhere, doing voiceover work for the Paw Patrol movie. He like I'm sorry, he's not that like I'm just not as high on him as everybody else is. Give me Alexander Volkov, that crazy Russian. He's I think he's going to be trying to make a good run at the heavyweight once again. I like him. Before that, a fight that I think is going to be pretty interesting is Bryce Mitchell. This dude's absolutely crazy. He thinks the world Earth is flat. I think he has all types of levels of CTE. He brings out a Bible every single fight and just yells out freedom. He's a crazy SOB, but he's going up against Kron Gracie. For those of you who don't know, the Gracie family is pretty prominent in the MMA community because the Gracie family actually kind of helped create the UFC. They created Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and Kron Gracie is basically a part of like what is an MMA royal family. But honestly, I feel like the Gracie style of only focusing on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been pretty detrimental to their fight style, and I don't really see like Kron Gracie actually making a real dent in the UFC scene. So I'm going to take Bryce Mitchell on this one. The day I see a Gracie make a serious a run for a championship in 2024 is going to be the day hell freezes over. So give me Bryce Mitchell on that one. An interesting fight. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Ian Machado Guerri. This is interesting. A little backstory behind Ian Gary. Well, Ian Machado, Gary, he picked up the Machado of his last name because he wanted to make his wife happy. So he took the last name of his wife's ex-husband Yep. This is real. This is real. This dude picked up the last name of his wife's ex-husband so he could like make his stepchild happy, and everybody's been calling him a cuck since. And he's going to be going up against Shavkat Rakhmenov. I like Shavkat a lot. I think he, like, pretty much the winner of this one is going to be like making a pretty big run in welterweight. I try to like Ian Gary. He seems like a good guy. He seems really nice. He could kick my ass, but damn it if he isn't a fucking pushover. And he tries to act so hard and act like he's the toughest dude in the room, but I'm sorry, dude. The memes of my wife's boyfriend has obviously been getting to his head a little bit sometimes. But in this one, I'm going to take Shavkat. I just like him. I like his style a little bit more. He's favored, and I haven't really been that impressed with Ian Gary. But that leads us to the main event. This is going to be a flyweight main event against Alexander Pantoja versus Kai Asakura. Kai Asakura is making his UFC debut this fight. And this is very interesting because most fighters don't make their UFC debut in a championship match. But Kai Asakura is coming off of, he just signed with the UFC. Formerly, he was a part of the Rizin Fighting Federation, and he was absolutely dominant there. He just absolutely cleared board, is a Japanese MMA legend, and he's now making the jump to the UFC and is now challenging for the flyweight belt on his first fight in the UFC. He's not favored to win this one, but honestly, I've seen some of his striking. And I don't know, something's in the air right now. The flyweight is always very unpredictable. So I'm going to be going with Kai Asakura for the upset win. And I really want to see a shakeup in the flyweight title scene. And if Kai wins this one, it's going to, like, pretty much all hell is going to break loose for the flyweights. And I'm here to see it. So I got him taking the title, securing this main event, and that's going to be wrapping up UFC 310. Pretty interesting card, some interesting characters, but overall, not the strongest of cards. But if you're new to MMA, I'd definitely try to tune in for the prelim fights that are going to be shown on ESPN2 and FX. They're completely free. You're not going to have to pay for them. The later fights that are pay-per-view, you will have to pay for, or you're going to have to stream on TikTok illegally. I can neither confirm nor deny that's what I do. But interesting card, and that's going to be pretty much the end of the UFC cards this year. Overall, there was tons of great fights, tons of great cards at UFC 300, UFC 299, UFC 303. All of them are pretty legendary cards that I think are going to be remembered for a good little while. But that ends pretty much my predictions for this matchup, and I can't wait to tune in next week and see all the results and what went down.
Yep, and I think that'll do it for us here at Tobacco Road and Abroad for this Rivalry Week episode. We'll be back next week for Conference Championship recap. bowl predictions, possibly. Bowl predictions may be its own episode. A lot of episode plans coming out. We've got the college basketball one. I'm almost done editing that. I lost my sheet for the timestamp, so I'm having to listen to it and edit it in slow-mo. So that's taken a while. We'll probably have a season recap for both State and Carolina, and then more college basketball content will be coming your way in the coming weeks, as well as some NFL. So thank you guys for listening, and we will see you next week.